flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This regular meeting of the Exeter Town Council to order. Ask Madam Clerk to call the roll.
Cal Ellis.
Here.
Frank DiGregorio.
Here.
Mike Kahn.
Here.
Manny Andrews.
I am here.
Dan Patterson.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken, for agendas. Agendas, thank you. Now, lots of sheets. Is there a, does anyone wish to speak to us before we begin the meeting under public comment? And this would be regarding any issue that isn't already going to be addressed on the agenda, of which we have a lengthy one. So, hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Thank you. That's
But
different.
Cal, will you have
Yes.
open talk after the meeting also, after this?
Yes, for a topic that's here. Is
Okay.
that what you're asking?
Well, what I was gonna ask was,
This will be a quick public comment, because the gentleman's seeking clarification.
What's his
yes,
name?
Yeah,
should I stand or?
No, we can
Okay.
hear you, but what's your name? for the record?
My name's Richard Tuvanian, and I live on Boone Lake.
How do you spell your last name?
T is in Thomas, O-U, F is in Frank, A-N-I-A-N. And I've lived in this town for 33 years now. And my question, just something that I wanted to ask the town council. Property taxes on the lake. When you go to the Visions site and you pull up the individual property like mine, there's a section for dock rights. And I pay the town every year in my assessment. The dock right to have a dock is $3,200 for me a year. Now, when I've researched other houses on the lake, some are the same price and some are lower. So I came to the tax assessor's office and asked them, well, first I called Visions and I asked them about where are they getting the assessment from on, say, the docks and dock rights. So, in other words, they told me that they weren't in charge of setting it up, that the town was. So I came to the town assessor's office and asked them, and the girl I spoke to told me that it's the assessment is based on how old the dock is. Now, that doesn't sound, like it's a valid way to assess dock rights. And if you're paying for a dock right when you're on the water, then someone who doesn't have dock rights shouldn't have a dock. That's, that's my, my take on it. But I was just wondering if someone here, there seems to be like the association on the lake, which is basically just something that oversees their property and they collect the taxes for the dam repairs and everything. But as far as docks on properties around the lake, they have nothing to do with it.
Okay. And I don't mean to cut you off,
No.
but it isn't an agenda item here tonight.
Yes.
So we're not able to address it anyway. Unfortunately, we're really not supposed to, but I'm trying to explain because I know you're not a frequent attendee. If you wish, you could write to us. We could place it on an agenda item for another month and then explore it and involve the assessor with it and have a discussion.
Okay.
May I just advise you to write a short note? You can send it to the clerk and ask if we consider addressing issue of assessments
So I could get some clarification on it, you mean?
We could try, but we just can't deal with it tonight.
Yes,
Okay.
basically, I was just wondering, is this something that the town council would involve with?
Generally not, but
Okay.
we could, you know, as a citizen and a resident, if you have a question, we can deal with it and then probably refer it to the assessor's office, but
Okay,
anyway, that's the best answer. Does anybody else wanna, Jim, can you add to that?
No, I think it's a smart way to go about it.
About the best we could do this evening,
okay,
okay?
yep.
There are several announcements, let me make. First one involves our transfer station, and there has been some confusion, and we would apologize to anyone for that. We did vote recently on a grace period. We're trying to help people become compliant with the stickers. The town clerk's office has been open on weekends and will be open probably next weekend. We haven't addressed this, but when we get to transfer station, I think we can purchase, we'll mix it in with things that need to be addressed with the transfer station. But remember that new stickers are due now. There will be, next week, a week from tomorrow, at the Veterans Cemetery, a 911 ceremony recognizing those that were lost, those who responded, and a tribute to those people who responded, and a commemoration, if you will, of that horrific event. That's next week at the Veterans Cemetery at 9 a.m. Now, the next two items on the agenda, and thank you, Ken, if you're following on page 2. The next two items I'm going to speak to are actually subjects of public hearings that are going to be held this evening. Don't expect them to be controversial, but so I'm telling you ahead of time what you can anticipate. And the first is an annual classic car show, which is to be held a week from this coming weekend on Saturday, September 14th at the Animal Shelter on Route 2. And that is to benefit, those proceeds are to benefit the shelter. That's a week from this Saturday, 10 to 3 p.m. It's sponsored by the Friends of Exeter Animals. And in October, on October 19th, from 10 to 3, the Friends of the Library, Exeter Public Library, will host their Exeter Fall Festival at the Yorba Valley Ski Area. And this is also, has become an annual event. It's also an interesting experience for people who want to bring families. And that's October the 19th, assuming that we approve the permit this evening, which I expect we will. Now we go to the approval of the agenda order. I'll move that we approve it as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. And now we move to the consent agenda. There is a voucher that has been presented by the Charitable Trust Committee. I would like to remove reports from the tax assessor and the Department of Social Services Director, if we could, to address those later this evening. There are other reports that any member of the council wishes to remove for later consideration.
Number 16, the Exeter West Greenwich Regional School Building Committee.
Okay. And anyone else? Hearing none, we move to communications. If you don't mind, I'll tell you, I noted 4, but they're all communications that we're going to address somewhere during the course of the meeting. 6, 10, 17, and 19. Are there others, Frank?
Just number 3.
Number 3, Mike?
8.
For me, none other than those that were mentioned, Mr. President.
Thank you. Dan?
Already been told.
Thank you. Also, you have in front of you a bill sheet for this past month. the assessors abatements, et cetera, the collectors abatements. We have received, for your approval, minutes from the regular council meeting of August 5th, with the executive session meeting of that same night, a special meeting that was held on October 15th, and a work session meeting that was held that same evening on October 15th. Well, that being said, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, then I would make that motion then. Motion made by me and then seconded by Frank. Discussion, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Moving on to item 7, we continue to have vacancies on those boards, personnel and conservation. Some interest has been expressed, always willing to have more. Under resignations, we have received word that Marvin John Hughes, who served on the Reynolds Charitable Trust Committee, has left town for the most part, has had to resign the position. Entertain a motion that his resignation be accepted. Is that acceptable?
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded to accept Marvin John Hughes's resignation. And we'll assume that we'll make a motion to accept and inform him with regret and wish him well. Those, I'm sorry. Yes, please, if you would. I'm sorry, I didn't say that, but that's part of the process, as you know. Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Under C, I'd say this is an item of significant importance to us, not only at the council table, but everyone here at Town Hall, and that's with regard to the question of an information technology manager and an appointment of an individual to that position that's been posted. We did have 3 applicants for the position. All 3 are Exeter residents. We interviewed them on the 15th of this past month. And that being said, does any member of the council wish to make a motion in that regard?
I'll make a motion. First of all, I'd like to say that all 3 applicants presented excellent qualifications. But I would make a motion that we appoint James Angie. He was as qualified, if maybe not more qualified than the other 2, but he also has been helping with the situation in terms of the transition from former IT management system to the new system. And that he's familiar with the system, and I would think he would be the logical appointment to that position. So I'd make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second that motion, Mr. President. I think he's an absolutely wonderful candidate.
I was going to ask if there was other discussion on that motion. And I agree with Frank. All 3 candidates have very fascinating backgrounds, speak language that they speak freely than I don't, but I'm not speaking for other members of the council, but Mr. Angie for sure has helped us, even the prior council engaged him as a consultant, and he's been working with us, not only the transition, but in between, assisting us with solving some issues on our behalf. And I will just say, he was here Saturday morning because Ken said he's coming to address issues that are left over from the transition. And I came up to meet with him, and there's no question that he's the right choice in my mind. So, having said that, anyone else? Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Madam Clerk, you'll do the necessary notifications. Thank you very much. Second item here is the Reynolds Charitable Trust Committee member. Coincidentally, while we just had a resignation, we also have received a letter of interest from a Mr. Carl Bowen, who says he's been a resident of Exeter for 22 years, and indicates in his letter that he would consider it a privilege to serve on the committee. Having that letter in front of us, I would suggest we take action. Is there a motion someone might like to make?
Make a motion that we appoint Mr. Bowen.
I'll second that motion.
Second, motion is made and seconded that Carl Bowen be appointed to the Reynolds Charitable Trust Committee. And just as a point of information, Council, I think you had seen these. I knew this was coming up tonight regarding an appointment. The Reynolds Trust is a fascinating initiative. It's not our initiative. It was from a very, well, I was gonna say an elderly gentleman, he's been long past, who left money, property. I have a few copies if anyone with leaving would like to know a little bit more about that. And it's a 5-member committee, and frequently from time to time, people need to leave, and it's a fascinating way to serve the community. That being said, we'll move on to public hearings. The first public hearing is with regard to an entertainment license application that's been submitted by Robert Harrison. Was there anyone here who wished to speak to it other than perhaps Mr. Harrison? Oh, good, that's okay. Are you Mr. Harrison? Okay, we'll talk to you. You can speak. We have questions.
Okay.
Was there anyone else who wished to speak to this issue? Okay, hearing none. This is an application for a family wedding to be held just down the street here in October 19th. And you indicate your son's being married. Do you want to just, you don't have to get into personal details, but let me ask for a motion to open the public hearing so that it's all official. Is there such a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Is there a second? Mr. Khan? Yeah, Mr. Khan is watching me because he knows I just keep talking. There's a motion made and seconded to open the public hearing. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, Mr. Harrison, good luck to you with your venture. Did you want to, go ahead. Anyone want to ask Mr. Harrison? I have a couple of things I wanted to ask. You may also. Did you want to tell us about it a little bit?
It's just, I have a 51-year-old son that has finally decided to get married.
Well, that's noteworthy.
And they live, he's marrying a carpenter, South County carpenter girl. And they looked all over the state and they chose to get married right out here out back.
In a field.
In the field out back.
In a field that you own, which has recently become a bit more visible to us because of what you've done. So, can I just ask you, and I don't know if, I don't mean to take, if anybody else wants to speak, can I just ask a couple of things?
Yeah.
I recently visited next door at the rescue, I call it rescue barn. I saw the well, which you referenced, which is an intriguing story, but I saw it and discussed that with the chief, the rescue chief. They also showed me the laneway, if you will, that you've improved. And so my question is that an access that you intend to use for your guests at the wedding?
Which access? Now,
That comes out here right next to the
yes, it is,
rescue barn.
because I asked the clerk if it would be all right if some of the guests would park in the town hall parking lot, because it's on Saturday. Right?
Oh, well, that's important information
Okay.
for the public hearing.
Okay.
I know.
And she thought that would be all right if some of the guests parked there. And instead of them walking down the street, I talked to Richard Brown, and he said he had cut a path through here years ago to get access to this area because he was, as you know, the town sergeant, and he used to walk up from the back there, according to what he told me. So I opened the path back up again so that people could walk from here down through into the field.
They won't be driving,
And then others,
can I ask, will they be driving through,
no.
only walking?
They were going to park here. Some people were going to park here, and then a lot of people were going to actually park on the field. And that's why I put that asphalt down on the road that was there before, so that it'll be safer in case it's wet or rainy. People can drive onto the field.
Where was the asphalt put down?
Right next to Richard Brown, there's an access to that property from 102. It's always been there, it's always been lined with old telephone poles. And all I did is just clean it up and make it safe to drive on. So that's what I did.
So this is a new access point to your property?
No, no. The access point has been, that access point off of 102 has been there for as long as I've owned
It's like a
the
right
property.
of way or something into the property.
I think so, because there were a couple of poles there, a break in the stone wall, and there was a road in there, always has been, as far as I know. All I did is put some reprocessed asphalt on it, so people could drive on it without sinking in the mud.
Okay. Well,
My question is, does he have access from 102 from DOT?
well, don't ask me, I mean, this is the reason for the hearing.
Well, I have no idea, I'm just saying, that road has,
require a curb cut to drive from State Road to.
okay,
That's to put in a new road,
That-
this is an existing.
that's an existing, that road has
That
been
field,
there.
Richard originally owned that field.
That's right, Richard Brown owned that
That's the one he
field,
used to go back and forth in his tractor.
right, and that road has been there forever, as far as I know.
I know what you're talking about, tell us all.
So all I did is clean it up,
Yeah, maintenance.
and I've been cutting it forever.
But let me just insert
Okay.
that I think using the word road, it's just a little problem. It's an access to property,
Okay,
it's probably a
okay.
right of way, but a road implies that
Okay,
it's
I
part of a,
I used
part of a
the,
system.
I used the wrong
No,
term.
that's okay. My one concern, I mean, this was a concern raised here that I just heard. I was a little concerned about traffic out here on that day, because it can be busy with Saturdays, as
So-
I'm sure you know. And
Okay.
I didn't know whether,
So further, what the plan is a lot of people going to park on my driveway on 59 Rupert Round Lane. I've also got paths through the woods that I put stone down so that they can walk from my property up into the field. So people going to park on Reuben Brown, they're gonna park in my driveway, they were going to park up here, and then some were gonna park in the field.
Mr. President, may I make a comment?
please.
And so first of all, I'll say that I am in support of allowing Exeter residents to have family weddings on their property. You have plenty of property, I see nothing wrong with it. I support that. If it's a commercial venture, I would not support that, as there was one several months back. However, I think from this point forward, listening to the comments about how people are gonna get in and get out, I think we should probably make as part of our process that any applicant seeking to have any type of party like this should meet with the town sergeant. Because we're talking about, people getting in, people getting out, the road's this, the road's that. I'm not familiar with the area, I don't know if anyone else is. And so I think it might not be a bad idea to allow, to ask an applicant in the future to speak to the town sergeant, so the town sergeant can come in and give his opinion on public safety. This is all about public safety and getting in. 150 cars are a lot of cars. So I think in the future, we should probably ask.
And there won't be 150 cars,
No,
there'll probably be a third of that maybe.
Whatever
Yeah.
number, cars.
And in fact, by default, I did talk with the past town sergeant, and that's why I've done what I did. And he was the one that actually suggested that I did do what I'm doing.
Yep.
He isn't the current town sergeant, but I did talk to Richard.
One of the, and past practice issues also, and I'm not trying to be difficult here. In fact, I have a letter from the district about the well, because I think that's fascinating, and I just wanted to speak to that.
Okay.
Because you asked us for consideration
Yep.
of waiving, which I think the whole issue is fascinating. I made it my business to check into it. Not that I didn't doubt what you said, it's a curiosity. Ordinarily, with that, if a tent, for example, is involved, there might be a need to have the fire marshal come and look, and the town sergeant, as was suggested here. I was thinking about this, as I think everyone was, and especially when I saw the new access. Now, it's not new, as Dan says, it's always been there, but it's now been upgraded and obviously able to be used. That I think that I personally, as has been suggested here, would like it if you meet with the sergeant to talk about security, because it might be possible to have a detail or something.
It's not a problem, I can do
No,
that.
no, I know. I think that we need to just notify the Susan Hawksley, who is our fire marshal, just so that you could meet with her. And I personally don't object at all to granting this, but subject to you doing a couple of other things between now and then. That's just, I'm speaking for myself, not them. I'd like to read this letter for the record. It's dated December 7th, 2015, because it speaks to your request about waiving a fee. Dear Mr. Harrison, this is from the Exeter Fire District. Please accept this letter as acknowledgement of the receipt of your notice to the Exeter Fire District that you contend that the drilled water well located behind the Exeter EMS building and serving the building is on your property. In your letter, you grant your permission for us to continue our use of the well at our own expense and liability for the foreseeable future. While the exact ownership of the well may not be currently known, we do appreciate and acknowledge your granting us use of the well. Additionally, we will continue to maintain the landscaping in the vicinity of the well. So on. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to contact, the chief, and that's signed Kevin Rooney, who's president. He's no longer president, but I'd like the record, I'd like the hearing to indicate that you received this letter. It's a bit intriguing. Well, because I don't think, I don't know if there's been a survey or not, but we looked at the well, and the chief acknowledges that it probably is on
Yeah.
their property.
And when I wrote that letter, I asked the chief to acknowledge it at a town meeting.
It's done.
Well, now it's done.
Okay.
Now that your son's being married. Other questions of this gentleman?
I got one
Yes,
question
sir.
for Mr. Harrison. You're gonna have a tent there, correct?
Yes,
So, because Calvin brought up the thing about having notified the fire marshal, they're gonna be showing up anyway to inspect that tent, Calvin.
What,
Well, how are they gonna be if they're not notified, if Susan isn't notified, how would she know that there's a tent?
That's pretty much the standard in all these towns. They have to be inspected by the fire marshal.
And who would notify her through this process?
Usually the tent companies do it in each town.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
because we have a tent company do it, we're not doing
Yeah.
it ourselves.
No, and I understand that, because I've been in a situation where I've had a tent on my property elsewhere and have had it inspected, so I understand what you're talking
Yeah.
about. But I'm not sure you were aware, and maybe the tent
No, I wasn't aware
company-
either.
Well, maybe the tent company's gonna do it, but I think it's appropriate to notify our fire marshal that that's happening, then.
So are you going to do that, or am I going to?
No, we'll let her know.
Okay,
that we may have granted,
She'll be in here tomorrow night.
and she
7
will
to
be
9.
here tomorrow night,
Okay.
which is what I was going to say, if you want to come chat with her and, anyway.
May I make a motion,
Please,
Mr. President?
please.
I would make a motion that we approve the application, subject to Mr. Harrison meeting with Town Sergeant Donovan, as well as the fire marshal, and agreeing to abide by any of their suggestions that they may make for this application.
Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded. Is there other discussion? Now, we might close, perhaps we'll close,
Should we also
Public
mention to
hearing.
allow
the-
parking?
want to close the
fees
public?
Fee.
Oh, yes.
And if I can amend that motion, I suggest that we waive the $100 application fee in light of the fact that the town is utilizing Ms. Harrison's well.
And pay certified mailing and
Yes.
advertising fees?
Yes.
Thank you.
And Dan, you approve the amended motion?
Yep.
Do we need a motion to
We need
use the
to-
parking lot?
Well,
Should we address that?
we can, maybe we should, let's do this and then decide whether or not we want to allow that to happen. Usually we close the public hearing, however, first, but I didn't do that.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Well, we got to vote.
Well, then we'll
Withdraw the motion.
I'm gonna take that motion up in just a moment. I'm gonna put that motion on hold, okay? the one that Manny made.
Okay.
If I could put that on hold, and prior to voting, I'm gonna entertain a motion, we close the public hearing. Did you make that
I
motion?
made that motion.
Second.
A motion's made and seconded to close the public hearing. Discussion, those, no discussion, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, so voted. Now, could we entertain a motion that had been placed on the table prior to that vote? And now, you understand the motion,
Yes.
and is there other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Now, with regard to this issue, did you want to discuss the
I was
use
gonna
of the parking
suggest,
lot?
I was gonna suggest that we amend the motion to include allowing them to use the parking lot.
You can make it a separate motion.
I'll make it a separate motion.
Seconded.
Allow use of parking.
On Saturday, the 19th.
Day of the weather, right.
Okay, motion's made, it's on the table.
Then seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Madam Clerk, you see any issue with having folks park?
No, Bill,
Bill,
Steve, you have
any issue that you see letting people park out here?
Just as long as they keep the front of the building here where we park our cars.
Please.
and away from the,
They don't
Because
park,
we're in and out of
they
there.
won't park where the police park.
We're in and out of there every day.
Okay. Other discussion, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Mr. Harris, I think that takes care of our business with you. Good
I
luck.
might still hang around though.
Oh, you can. Look at all these other public hearings we're gonna have.
$145.75 for the ads and the certified mail. Okay?
Do I have to pay that?
Is this?
Yep.
Is this?
What is it, was it again?
$145.75.
Right. Next item, 8B, it's an application for outdoor entertainment license made by the Friends of the Exeter Animals.
Yeah, no,
Well, that's what this says. So, it says, no, mine says Exeter Public Library. Sorry, you're absolutely right. I'm looking at C, speaking about B. This is an application for the Friends of the Library to hold their annual fall festival on October 19th in the Yalu Valley Ski Area on Yalu Valley Road. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion is made and seconded. Discussion, those in favor say aye. Opposed, so voted. I'm not gonna bother to ask for discussion because we know we're just moving forward. And so now, Ms. Douglas, you wanna tell us what you're gonna do again, just briefly, let these people know what you're doing.
Yes, I will. I'm Helen Douglas, the president for the Friends of the Exeter Public Library, and we have been holding a Fall Festival fundraising event at the Yalu Valley Ski Area and Water Park. And we have like artisan craft vendors there, and we have a little games for kids. And we do have Julie Cleaver with the horse-drawn carriages. Yeah, and we have a raffle, which we run through the state police office. We raffle off quilts and some baskets. So it's a total fundraising event for the Exeter Public Library through us. We do get sponsors to defray our costs, and so pretty much everything we make goes towards the library. So that's what we'll be doing on the 19th.
Hours of 10 to 3.
Yes, 10 to 3.
Thank you. There's no one signed up, no one asked to speak. Council questions? Council,
You say no?
council good wishes?
I'd make a motion that we approve it if you feel the motion's
I
appropriate at this
do,
time. Mr.
I
President.
do.
You gotta-
Oh, sorry, forgive me.
Oh, no,
We
wait,
close the public hearing
wait,
first.
don't jump the gun. Why don't you make a motion to close the public
I
hearing?
move that we close the public hearing, Mr. President.
Mr. Khan, why don't you second that? Sure. We're trying to move, I'm trying to move, but I do too much and they want me to do less. Motion is made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. With regard to issuing the entertainment license Would someone care to make that motion?
No? Sorry, Frank, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the license for the public fundraiser for the public library, for the Exeter Public Library.
Then would that include waiving the fee? since
Including waiving the fee,
the
that'll be
town entity.
our donation for the fundraiser.
The application fee will pay the,
Pay the notice.
Pay, except you have to pay for the notice. Click next year.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion is made and seconded. If the motion's understood and it's clear, and then there's no discussion needed, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you, good luck with your endeavor. I didn't ask if there's a rain date, I know there isn't.
No, we've had it in the rain.
I seem to remember you've done that before, so wish you the best.
16310.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, good luck.
Thank you.
8C, it's a public entertainment license application submitted on behalf of the Friends of Exeter Animals, and this is with regard to that car show that's being held a week from Saturday on the premises of the animal shelter on Route 2. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion is made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. This has become an annual event. It seems to be pretty well attended.
Is there anyone here to speak to that?
I don't know. No one, there's no one that has
Signed
to
up.
speak. By the way, just for the public's information, when these applications are submitted for our consideration, neighbors, abutting neighbors are all noticed so that they're aware that there's an event happening. Your neighbors must have been noticed, but apparently they think it's a great idea, they're not here.
They gave me the copies
They
and
did.
said it was a great idea.
Good. Well, that being said, and I don't think there's anyone here from the animal, Friends of Exeter Animals. Wait, the supervisor's here. All set, Steve, they ready to go?
No, they do a great job every year.
It's quite, it's a whole bunch of stuff going on over there. It's a good day.
Do you waive the fee for them too?
Oh, I think we should. So, if there's no one else that wishes to speak, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion is made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. And I'll entertain a motion to grant the application
So moved.
with.
With the agreement that we waive the
waiving
fee,
fees.
however, they could pay the other costs as suggested by the clerk.
And there's a second.
Second.
Don't be smart. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. The next item is one that we considered a couple of months ago. This has to do with updating our town's street map. I'll entertain a motion that we open this public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second. Motion's made and seconded. We're back to the issue again, and because there are a number of small modifications that were made that needed to be addressed, that have been addressed. Steve, you could speak to this if you would, because I know you sort of directed us through this at the outset. And so we're back again tonight because we just wanted to finalize the Stony Lane issue. We had also sent the revised street map to the planning board, and there's a message here from the board that I'd like to read into the record. The planning board has discussed the changes to the map and received clarifying information from the Public Works Director and does not find any reason not to accept these proposed changes, the planning board relies on the expertise of the Public Works Director and his advisement of these changes. The planning board finds that this proposed change to section 38-106 is not inconsistent with the town of Exeter's comprehensive plan. I think that's important to be part of the record of. Steve, with regard to Stony Lane, which was one of a big issue we had before us before, did you want to just give us a quick update if we move forward and approve this, as I expect we will? What will you be doing for us there?
The butters have agreed to let me put the gate down on the corner, on the new road end of Stony Lane, where it's about 400 feet short of where the actual abandonment is. But the people, when they come down the road, will see the gate prior to having to drive and then back up, and there's no place to turn around.
Good.
So we'll have the gate where it can be seen down at the turn, so you'll see the gate, they'll be able to back up, there'll be signage posted accordingly, that it's a dead-end road. There's also, the gates will go up by the end of the month, once it's approved. And I have heard nothing else from anybody other than permission for the gate at the corner.
Thank you, and I want to thank Manny too. This has been an ongoing process, and I know you responded and understood the significance of that issue.
Yes.
Did you want any follow-up?
Actually, there's only one other question, I'm not sure we touched upon it last time, and that's the fact that we need to make contact with Google or any other type of GPS company, because unless we notify them that that road's been abandoned, somebody pulls up that GPS, then it's gonna lead people right into that area, and I'd be afraid of some town liability there if we don't notify the company, so I would suggest that the clerk notify any type of Google Maps or whomever, I'm not sure which companies are out there, that we have abandoned that road and it's not safe for passage. Did we take care of that, Steve, or?
Not yet, but
Okay.
but I believe we can do it online with Google.
Okay,
And just about everybody uses their data for their GPS units.
so I think that's the last thing we really need to do to make sure all the loose ends are tied up.
And if you need to consult with anyone, you certainly will, to make sure that works. Steve, anything else you'd like to add for the public hearing?
We'll be having a new map printed before fall, hopefully. In the next 2 months, I would say.
What will we put, no, it's not it, it's
It's in
in the back, there's
No place it fits.
any other discussion, questions? No, hearing none, I'll call for a motion to close the public hearing.
So, seconded.
Motion is made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Entertain a motion that we approve the new map with its amendments as addressed here through the public hearing process.
Should we add any authorize Steve to consolidate?
I think we did that as part of the original plan.
Did we, I think we did. We wanted to know if we need a motion to authorize you to put up the gate. I don't know if we did or we didn't.
As soon as you, that was agreed upon last month, but that.
I thought so.
So you know you're all set once we approve it. You have made, seconded?
Second.
You think, you got it?
Who made it?
Yeah.
Who? Cal made it?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Never mind, that's fine.
Yeah.
Moving forward. Those in favor of the motion to adopt the new map and with changes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Any more public hearings? We only have a few more public hearings. This is very unusual for anybody, we don't do this, but we're here. These are, okay. These last two are sort of companion pieces. The first one It's a proposed amendment to the Exeter Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1 in general, Section 2.1, Decorum at Town Assemblies and Meetings, and Section 2.2, Enforcement of Decorum.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Motion's made and seconded to open the public hearing. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
We gonna do these individually or
Well,
together?
yeah, well, I think, well, why don't we just do one at a time? And I'll tell you why. When you look at the copy of the actual ordinance, I think I have it right here. We do not have it, I should have it, excuse me just a minute. Here it is. Just a minute. I'm just gonna read this to you, and I just wanna first tell you the genesis of these ordinances, these proposed ordinances. During the month of June, I don't remember the date, but there was a meeting here, a public meeting of the zoning board, and there was some disruption caused at that meeting, and when I was told about that, I immediately contacted our solicitor and asked if he would be kind enough to meet with our town sergeant, because the situation involved his input, which is part of the second ordinance here that we're gonna consider in a few minutes. But we spoke about conduct, and so we're calling this an ordinance relating to decorum at town assemblies and meetings. I'm just gonna read this for the record, for your information, and for anyone who might be listening or watching. Section 2.1, prohibited activities. While any town assembly, the town council, or any duly constituted board or commission of the town of Exeter is in session, attendees must observe and maintain civility, order, and decorum, and no person, member, or attendee shall by statement, action, conversation, or otherwise delay or interrupt the proceedings at the peace of the town assembly, town council, town board, or town commission, or disturb any member thereof while speaking or by refusing to obey the orders of the town, assembly, council, board, or commission, or its presiding officer. Second section entitled Cessation of Address. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks, or who shall become boisterous while addressing the town assembly, council, board, or commission, or any member thereof, shall be forthwith, by the presiding officer, barred from further audience before the assembly, council, board, or commission at that meeting, unless permission to continue is granted by a majority vote of the assembly, council, board, or commission. The second section reads enforcement. The sergeant at arms, the town sergeant shall be the sergeant at arms at any town assembly or meeting, including town council, board, or commission meetings. Special constables who've been duly elected by the town council may, at the request of the chair or presiding officer, also be designated to attend and act as sergeant at arms. The sergeant at arms shall carry out, for the purpose, or shall carry out all orders and instructions given by the chair or presiding officer for the purpose of maintaining order and decorum at any such town assembly, council, board, or commission meeting. Removal procedure. If any person conducts himself or herself in a disorderly manner in any assembly or meeting referenced above, the chair, moderator, or presiding officer may order that person to withdraw and remove him or herself from the assembly or meeting, and on the person's refusal, may order the town sergeant, sergeant-at-arms, or any town constable present to take him or her from the meeting until the meeting is adjourned in accordance with state law or local ordinance, and duties and removal complaint. Upon instruction of the chair or presiding officer, it shall be the duty of the sergeant-at-arms to peacefully remove any person who violates the order and decorum of the meeting, and if applicable, may cause him or her to be prosecuted for the violation of any applicable provisions of the Exeter Code of Ordinances or of state law. Any such complaint may be signed by the chair, presiding officer, town sergeant, or any special constable in attendance. Sorry, that's wordy. And I appreciate that our solicitor provided this to us for our consideration, which he did, and we've considered this. And before I ask you, any of you to speak, I just wanted you to know that at the end of each section, or at the end of the ordinance actually, references are made to state statutes. And again, these are somewhat outdated, difficult to enforce without any question. I particularly like this one. This is state statute, section 45-16-9, attendance of special constables at schools or meetings. A special town constable shall, upon the request of any citizen, and this is why I know this is a very old piece of legislation, and upon being tendered the sum of 30 cents an hour for the service required, attend any school meeting lawfully assembled for the purpose of preventing interruption or disturbance, and may arrest without warrant or detain not exceeding 6 hours any person found by the town constable in the act of willfully interrupting or disturbing a school or meeting. It's a state statute.
So that one,
And the reason it's there, clearly other towns, and we all know, we watch television today, we know that people can be disruptive, boisterous, and try to shut things down. So all the rules that we can make and present could be, they are what they are. But I appreciate, again, you bring this to our attention, because the reports that got back to me after that night by a number of people, I found troubling for sure. This is a disorderly conduct piece. This is Title II, Criminal Offenses, Chapter 11-45, Disorderly Conduct. And I'm only going to read a couple pieces. In a public place or near a private residence, well, that's not appropriate. In a public place, someone who disturbs another person by making loud and unreasonable noise, which under the circumstances would disturb a person of average sensibilities. These are definitions of what disorderly conduct is. Here's another one. Engages in conduct which obstructs or interferes with a lawful meeting, procession, or gathering. Again, just a couple of pieces of that piece of legislation. State statute. And this one, the moderator, if a person conducts himself in a disorderly manner in any town, representative district, or voting district meeting. We have comments that have been submitted by our town moderator regarding our financial town meetings. But here's specific reference, if you see here. As I said, the moderator may order that person to withdraw from the meeting. On the person's refusal, may order the town sergeant or any constable present to take him from the meeting and to confine him or her in some convenient place until the meeting is adjourned. I don't want to belabor it, but these are references that you included, and I appreciate that. So, we have sign-up sheets, but no one wanted to speak. did they? So that's the other. Anyone in council, comments?
Well, I'd like to make a comment. I'd like the public to know that this initiative was taken in response to events that occurred first at the financial town meeting, and then really erupted even more loudly and boisterously and prolonged at the zoning board hearing, where the meeting was delayed for as long as 45 minutes until state trooper was called in to remove them from the
And did
meeting.
you want to state for the record that you were present at that meeting?
I was present, and I witnessed it, and although it's not part of the record, it was also commented back to me personally at that meeting by that person, which I will not address. But it was because of those two events where the meeting was disrupted to a great degree, to the point that it discouraged a lot of people at the financial town meeting who left because of the display that occurred, that we felt that this initiative was necessary in order to maintain decorum at our public meetings.
I had a conversation with the town moderator after reading an email he sent to me, and he iterated, and then I reiterated. I think all of our concerns are that nobody wants to stifle debate, reasonable in a civil manner, so that people can be. And I'm talking now about the financial town meeting, a meeting that Frank is referencing was not a public meeting. It's public, but this was a zoning board that was here to conduct a hearing on an appeal, and the meeting, from what I'm told, had to stop because of a loud, boisterous behavior that was exhibited, which is totally inappropriate from my perspective. So anyway, I just like to, for the purpose of the public hearing, include Mr. Lakacher, who serves as our town moderator and has been for several years. He writes this: I applaud the thoughts behind the proposed decorum ordinance. I assume you will be packing this, I'm sorry, that was a tongue in cheek. I assume you will be packing at the next financial town meeting to enforce it. And his point is, what do we do when people are boisterous and misbehave? But then he goes on to say seriously, because he doesn't mean that. Seriously, I had several thoughts after reading it. It appears to be focused on council and board commission meetings, but notice it did say assembly, and that's an assembled meeting, our financial town meeting. I suggest, and the offender cannot return, see, he makes this point, except by majority vote of the town assembly. And I understand what he's saying here too, because if a group of people say, hey, we want this to happen, we want this meeting to be disrupted. I can understand his point here. I suggest you clarify it that one, it applies to the financial town meeting, and two, at least at the FTM, the moderator or presiding officer decides on readmittance. In other words, he's running the meeting, and he's not gonna say to the public, you want this to happen or not? I mean, in other words, it's his call, and he thought that it should be addressed, and that's his comment. I don't think we want a debate or vote of the assembled multitude on whether to readmit person X. You might also consider adding a warning provision. I think it's a big deal to throw someone out of a public meeting, so I make it clear that if you get a warning, sit with the town sergeant. Next infraction results in expulsion. It's probably a good practice to provide for a warning in all cases.
And we have done that at financial budget meetings before. Richard and I, for the many years that I've been doing it, we've had encounters over the years where we've had to have people removed.
Oh, and we've all seen it done, and Peter has done this.
Yes.
I think his point probably is that if we're gonna fall back on some written local ordinance, that maybe he thought that particular piece should be included. Jim, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I responded to Peter. I always very much value his input on things, and he makes some good points, but I think he's misread the ordinance. In particular, first of all, with regard to the readmission, he says you can't do it before readmitting. That's not what it says. It talks about cessation of address. That's when somebody's addressing. And what the ordinance says is anybody makes these types of comments or engages this kind of activity can be barred from further audience before the town assembly. That means, to me, it's old language, comes out of the statutes, comes out of our, also dovetails with our bylaws. I think what that means is you don't have further audience. You do not have, you cannot address. It doesn't say you're throwing them out at that point. That's addressed later on. So what would happen in this scenario, and this is exactly as Scott was saying, and as Peter has done in the past, you say, please stop. I'm going to put you, Peter says, I'm going to put you over in timeout. And that's a warning. And people go there when he's told, when they're told, or they stop, one or the other. And it's only after that, you'll see in the second section under enforcement of the quorum, under removal procedure, that's a different procedure. And that talks about the ability of the chair to basically state, or the moderator in this case, to basically state the person has to leave. And that's usually as a last resort. At that point, the special constable or the town sergeant is obliged to carry out those orders. Peter also had a question about making it specific to financial town meetings, making it certain. I believe this actually came out of financial town meeting law. So when it says town assembly, I think that is primarily what it addresses, because there aren't many true town-wide assemblies that occur. So that's my point. I think he makes excellent points. If the council thinks you need to revise the ordinance to do that, that's fine, but quite frankly, I think that the ordinance addresses the problems that Peter said, and does not take away at all the ability of the moderator to act as the moderator or the chair, in this case the town council president, if it happens here, feels needs to be taken. I also noted to Peter that when it talks about the readmission, a person shall not be readmitted once removed unless there's a vote that says readmit the person, or if a person is told to stop. That's basic parliamentary law. If someone says, wait a minute, I want to challenge the rule of the chair, if it's a town council meeting, and someone says, you've just stopped the person, I want to challenge that ruling. If done appropriately, the town council can then vote on whether or not to enforce that. That's a procedure. If that's invoked, it's then done. At a financial town meeting, any person in the audience could challenge a ruling of the chair, of the moderator. That's something that's been done since time immemorial. And once that's done, if someone stands up and says, I challenge the ruling of the chair of this person, I seek to overrule the ejection of this person, then the entire body can take a vote, if it's done appropriately and in a timely fashion. So these are all rules of parliamentary procedure, none of which are trumped by these ordinances, but are intended to dovetail with those. So, again, if the council thinks that there's ambiguity that you want to clear up, we can do that. That's certainly fine. But that's my explanation. I'm not certain that it's legally necessary.
Appreciate it.
For what it's worth, I think it's fine as written. Jim, I don't think it needs any clarification or modification.
Council discussion. Okay. Hearing none.
Make a motion to close the public.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded, close the public hearing. Those in favor say
Aye.
aye. Opposed, so voted.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed amendment as
And
Seconded.
under discussion, I would like to say this. I absolutely approve, and again, thank you for bringing this forward. I'd like to say that, rules are there, and most people say, some people say, oh, rules are made to be broken, we've all heard that. Well, I think it's just important for people to understand that there's a concern here at this table. It certainly is a concern for me, and from you, and I believe, Mr. Khan, you attended that meeting as well. And the conversations I had with these people the next day were, are you kidding? And then I followed up with our town sergeant, who was brought from another town where he was already engaged in something other than town business, and showed up here to assist. Thank you for that. I had a conversation with him, which leads us to the second ordinance. I would like to do this, with the ordinance. I would like to ask Madam Clerk to forward this particular ordinance, maybe not the second one, could, but this one in particular, to the chairs of the boards and commissions. Let them know that it was addressed tonight, that we adopted this after discussion, and want to bring it to their attention. And if they have other questions, they should pursue it through both boards, zoning and planning, have their own legal counsel, which they can address. But I think that they should be noticed that we've done this.
Is that a motion?
I would like to, yes, I would like you to do that. Does anyone object to that process?
It's a motion, I'll second it.
Yeah. Well, I think the motion to adopt is on the table, and we could amend it to include that. Sure.
That's fine.
So, and then the second, well, won't you, Manny?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Seconded.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So
Nay.
voted. Nay?
Yep.
Okay. One no vote from Dan. The second of this kind of companion, and I addressed some of this already through these other state statutes. This is a proposed amendment, again, to Chapter 2, Administrations, Article 3, Officers, Employees, Division 5, Town Sergeant, Town Constables, Section 2-201, and goes on, Section 2-202, Special Constables, Section 2-203, regarding attendance at meetings, and Section 2-204, disturbances at public assemblies.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion made and
Second.
seconded to open the public hearing. In favor, say aye. Opposed, so voted. Again, bear with me, folks, but I'd like to read this publicly for the purposes of the public hearing and anyone who might be following us on YouTube. Regarding, this is Division 5, or Section 1, Article 3 of Chapter 2 of the Exeter Code of Ordinances entitled Officers and Employees, is hereby amended by adding the following division and sections. Division 5, Town Sergeant and Constables. Town Sergeant, pursuant to Section 607 of the Town Charter, there shall be a town sergeant who shall be elected by qualified voters. The general election for 2-year term shall serve until his or her successor is elected and qualified. The town sergeant shall have and exercise such powers and duties as are prescribed by law or ordinance. Special town constables, Section 2-202. The Exeter Town Council at any duly convened town council meeting may elect for a term not exceeding 1 year, one or more special constables who shall have and exercise such powers and duties as may be prescribed by law or ordinance. Special constables shall serve at the pleasure of the council and shall perform such other and further duties as may be assigned to them by the town council and/or the town sergeant, as may be necessary to protect, preserve, or maintain the public peace, health, safety, or welfare. Any constable elected by the town council may be removed from office for cause at any time by the town council after written notice and after opportunity for public hearing. Attendance at meetings. In addition to all other duties prescribed by law, charter, or ordinance, it shall be the duty of the sergeant and/or constables, upon request of any town council member, or upon the request of the presiding officer, chair, or moderator of any town assembly, board, or commission, to attend any town assembly or any meeting of such council, board, or commission for the purpose of preventing any interruption or disturbance at such assembly or meeting, or to otherwise preserve the peace and good order of the town. The town sergeant and/or the town constables may remove any person found by the meeting chair, moderator, presiding officer, sergeant, or constable to have willfully interrupted, impeded, or disturbed the conduct of any such meeting. In furtherance thereof, the town sergeant or constables may also seek the assistance of and render all necessary aid and assistance to other state or local enforcement officers in the discharge of their duties. And finally, disturbances at public assemblies. Every person who shall willfully interrupt, impede, or disturb any lawful public assembly or meeting, or who shall obstruct any constable or town sergeant in the execution of their duties thereat, shall be in violation of the terms of this section, and shall be subject to the fines and penalties imposed by law or ordinance, including but not limited to those stated in section 1-15 and 1-16 of the Code of Ordinances. Once again, this was the result of my asking town solicitor to address the situation. He actually met with town sergeant, thank you again for that, and this is a product of that discussion. So thank you again. Comments, council?
Again, I think this is just a companion piece to the decorum ordinance, and everyone has had their discussion heard. I would make a motion to approve. Oh, you didn't have anything.
Well, I was just gonna ask if there's any other discussion. Dan, I know you did not support the other one. Do you think this is appropriate, or did you not want to support this either?
Where was that, Ken? That one paragraph kind of contradicts itself. Section 2-202, special town constables. Special constables shall serve at the pleasure of the town council and shall perform such other and further duties as may be assigned to them by the Exeter Town Council and/or by the Exeter Town Sergeant, as may be necessary to protect, preserve, and maintain public peace, health, safety, and/or welfare. Then the next sentence says, any constable elected by the council may be removed from office for cause at any time by the council after written notice and after opportunity for hearing thereon. I mean, that sentence contradicts the previous sentence. It says serves after pleasure.
Well, I guess, I don't read it that way, but,
I don't think it contradicts it.
whatever.
I think that anybody who is told that their services are no longer wanted in midterm would be entitled to a hearing on it, if they have been elected. So it is at the pleasure, but when it comes to the mechanism employed for actually terminating, then I think the cost probably should be shown.
Well, I'm just, again, I don't want to belabor it, but it seems like if someone's serving at the pleasure of the council, but then the council is no longer pleased, then I guess it's maybe time that they no longer serve. And I think that's what this suggests. Manning?
I agree with the solicitor.
Well, anyway, that being said, any other comments, discussion? Bill Esco, may I just ask, is there anything you'd like to add, or does it help you a bit to, so you know kind of?
Having all these clarifications
Yeah.
in a written word helps a lot.
And again, we all know what I'm gonna say, but I'm not sure everyone sitting here understands that Bill comes to us from a career in law enforcement, and now he's got a different career, and it's not quite like the one he had. So he knows what he probably would like to do sometimes, but not sure that his position here gives him that authority. Is that fairly well said, Bill? sort of.
They're two distinct jobs.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
And
but it's difficult to work when you don't have tools either.
Yeah,
I have one thing,
Please, please.
because this is important, they both talk about duties at town meetings. One of them comes out of the state law that talks about special town constables, and there's one word that's different, or at least added, that I think is implied in the other ordinance as well. You'll see that in section 203 and 204, it talks about every person who shall, quote, willfully interrupt, willfully impede, willfully disturb. And as you know, when push comes to shove, if you go to court, after you've charged, if a person is actually charged with a violation, rather than just ejected, the question may become, how do you prove that they willfully did it? They thought they were just simply exercising their right to free speech. They thought they were simply, they didn't know they were getting loud. They didn't know they were disturbing people. That's where it comes in. That's where it's really important for the town sergeant, the town constables, the moderator, to maybe give that warning. To say, look, stop it, or we're gonna have to eject you. You are disturbing people. You are impeding the ordinance, the group. At that point, if they keep it up, then they are willfully doing it because they've been warned. So I mean, you have to read that kind of into it and use your common sense. I think that Peter always does that. I think you gentlemen always do that. You're faced with things like that. You don't just leap to it and grab them and throw them out. If you can talk to them in a safe manner, then it's always worth a shot at suggesting to them that they get one more chance, and before taking them out. Once they do, I think that willful is pretty much laid out. So.
Thank you. Anything else? I'll move to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
Motion is made and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted.
Mr. President, I would move that we adopt this ordinance as written.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and seconded. I assume there's no further discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay.
And that's a 4 yes and 1 no, Dan being opposed. Let's move to section 9, number 9. A regards the issue of workplace harassment, and it goes back to, we've had lengthy discussions about this for some time. It's referring, that's not a mistake, it refers to a communication we received in December, and we've been talking about how we should move forward with this. Well, this is, oh wait, oh no, I'm sorry, that's another one. We've got several things we've been talking about for a while. Thank you, this is ethics, not the other one. So, with regard to this communication, any thoughts?
Well, the Ethics Commission is a very important body in the state of Rhode Island in terms of providing clarification as to ethical behavior in public bodies. And we received a communication from Mr. Lynn Radishas from the Rhode Island Ethics Commission for a chance to offer some training on the Rhode Island Ethics Code and ethical behavior and the processes that they're involved with. I've had quite a lot of dealing with the Ethics Commission on any sides of the issue, and I think it's highly recommended that we do set up a time to have her come.
Ken, I know you've communicated with her several times, haven't you?
Correct. And so just waiting for verification. If you're ready to move forward, I'd contact her again, because we started talking with her, and she gave states of April 8th and May 13th and June 10th.
Right.
So now we're past that.
Yeah, her letter indicates daytimes, and I don't know how
She said she'd come down tonight.
Would she come in the evening? And probably, to me, it might be worth a special evening work session with her and invite all the board, you know, be one section, one night, but invite as many from boards and commissions as can come. I think that, to me, that would be appropriate, because I agree with you, Frank. Ethics can't be overstated, or the need for.
Do you wanna go for the October, November, and December, second Mondays?
Oh, because they're open, yes, because this room's always open. Second Monday will be Columbus Day. Yeah. Yes? Well, I mean, it's usually the second Monday of October, so then, I don't know what that's gonna be.
How about the third Monday?
Then, yeah,
That
we,
would be,
why don't you? Well, also November, why don't we do this, Ken? Can you talk to her? You know, the reason we're talking Monday, as you know, is because this room's always blocked out in case we have to continue the council meeting. In other words, could be next Monday, but it can't be because it's not enough time, I understand. So now October, I'm pretty sure will be Columbus Day, but, second Monday. But then I don't know if you blocked out, since, you know, if we had to meet the second time, which we don't, unfortunately. Can you and Ken, can you and Lynn talk about availability of the room, and then just let you set it up, and then as many, because we're never gonna capture everybody. So Lynn, Ken, can you work with Lynn to look at open dates? Ask her when she can come, and then see if we can fit it in. Would you kind of work on that for us?
November 11th is, Veterans Day.
Well, it's also a Monday, isn't it? Guess we can only meet, we've gotta finish our business every Monday, every first Monday. Well, there may be other, why don't we check and see what other nights it might be open, because sometimes it is.
When
And
you
then
meet
see
with
the-
her, and then I'll see where.
Well, just send me a list of the open dates,
So that's a good thing,
and I'll ask her which ones.
might work for her, and then
I'll
set
send
it up,
to you.
let everybody know, Lynn can let everyone know, that the council is hosting, if you will, with the Ethics Commission, and invite, because it's an important issue. Lynn, and we can all craft something very nice. Thank you. I don't think we need a motion on that, I think you'll take care of that, Ken, right?
No problem.
Item B. We had sent this along to Maria, but it's on our agenda to see if there's any discussion that might ensue regarding the offers for cell towers.
At this point, I think we need a little bit more information. I talked with Maria briefly, we kind of need to explore a little bit more before we discuss it.
Okay. Are we going
Can we
to
move that to unfinished
move it to
business?
unfinished business? Okay. I have a problem there. Let's do that. Lynn, we're not gonna move on this tonight. We can set it up for next month's unfinished.
Yeah.
Now we come to 9C. I believe that we have a recommendation from Steve Maxjack regarding, there were two bids submitted. If you noted from Steve, this is with regard to liquid salt storage tanks, which we're going to go into storage. How about show and tell? This is a salt storage shed. It's already been constructed at the town garage, where salt will be kept, but also there's going to be a salt liquid brine. Have you been using that already? The brine?
We haven't physically used it, we have played with it a little bit, with other towns equipment.
Okay, so he's ready to not just play, but to get serious. We've got two bids. You see what Steve has submitted? Steve, do you want to speak? I mean, we have the paperwork. Do you want to speak?
Well, there's
to
two
what-
bids submitted. This one's a few $100s more than the other one, but the other company's tank doesn't meet the specification, it doesn't have the safety features for the ladder tie downs, and it has a smaller manway to get inside the tank if we ever needed to. As well as the one that I recommended comes with a circulation system in the need-up. Not necessary most of the time, usually not at all, but it can't hurt to wash the tank out. So, and it also comes with a skid for the truck-mounted tank, which the other company doesn't provide. So overall, we're getting more with the one that we spec. And they're also a Massachusetts company versus a Pennsylvania company.
You have the information in front of you, wish to
Yep.
make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the vendor as Safe Road Services at the price quoted in Director Matchek's September 3rd, 2019 recommendation letter.
Second that motion.
Motion is made and seconded. Steve, that's great, thank you. Discussion? Dan, you kind of like to look at these things, what do you think?
No, he answered my question, so, Steve did.
Good.
So, just have to ask.
No other discussion? Those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you, Steve, and good luck with the project. Item D relates to proposal that was made for security cameras to be installed here in the building. And this is a project that was, it's been in discussion for some time. And we had our town sergeant and public works director who had experience with cameras in our other public buildings here, or some of them at least, and has walked through the process, and we have a report from our town sergeant. I just, because it has information about security, if you don't mind, counsel, I'd like to read this for the record. This is with regard to item 9D. We have this communication from Town Sergeant Donovan to us. The town of Exeter received 4 bids for the purchase and installation of a security camera system to protect the interior of the building, including areas where vital records are stored, areas where election materials and voter information is stored, and all access points into the first floor and basement of the building. Additionally, the system will monitor the exterior of the building to include the parking areas and all exterior access points into the building. Well, he goes on to say it's his recommendation that the council approve the purchase of a security camera system proposed by Multitech Alarm Corporation in the amount of $10,150. Multitech Alarm submitted the lowest bid for the initial purchase and installation of the system, and it appears it would be the most cost-effective system to maintain over the life expectancy of the system. We set aside money in the budget already to some extent. Well, no, I think we're gonna try to fund that through security from, I know where, but it's covered, and the taxpayers aren't gonna be picking up this tab. And it's important not only for the outside and the vehicles to be protected, but the inside as well.
Mr. President, may I make a comment?
Sure, please.
I just want to state publicly, apparently the company that's being proposed by Town Sergeant Donovan, I've used Multitech Alarm for my businesses and my property for 37 years. I just want everybody to know that. Wonderful company, obviously. I also use the services of another vendor for my business, although not security. It's a telephone system that's American Teleconnect. Not too happy with American Teleconnect. We fired them a couple of times, brought them back. So I just wanted everybody to know that there's a business connection between me and 2 of the entities that have bid.
So apparently you highly recommend it.
Yes.
But you might recuse yourself from
If you feel I need to,
I
that's
don't know, I'm
fine.
not sure.
I don't know either. Again, it's
I
just
don't
a
know.
business
I think-
relationship.
Yeah, I think, Madam Clerk, are
Well,
you
unless-
suggesting it's probably a good idea? general.
And man, just
Yes,
have an abundance of caution, you might want to do that.
Sure. Oh, at the same time.
Well,
Just to fill it out.
other comments? Steve and I chatted about this today.
She's gonna bring
Steve,
it back, and then she'll do the farm.
Steve, would you just speak briefly to make sure everybody here knows about your history with security here in town?
We've had issues in other facilities, actually they have one here as well, but this will help alleviate those problems in the future. It's helped at the animal shelter, it's helped at the public works garage. So it is what should be done, especially for the exterior and interior in certain locations. So there's no voice to worry about, it's only video, and we can handle any of those if they need to be stopped for whatever reason through the program.
You shared with me numbers of cameras that you have at the town garage,
Right, I have
which I found intriguing.
32 total in
Total.
all facilities, but that's just what I take care of.
And did you have 12?
I have 16 at the public works and 8 at the other facilities.
Just to be sure that there's no breach of security. We used to have such a system here
There was.
years ago, everybody, but hasn't been here, needs to be here. Discussion, further. Motion, I'm sorry.
We had this bid as ask for everything and then work our way backwards with the company. Is that what we did?
I couldn't hear the first part.
Question,
I thought when this went out to bid, we were gonna ask for everything and then work our way backwards from that point. Is that what we did? Or do we have specific locations?
We started out with a proposal to the people, to the vendors, telling them, this is what we want to capture. You build the system. And then before we were finished with that, we got another request / mandate from Board of Canvassers, something came down from the state, having to provide security for their type of vital records and equipment. So we had to add on, and we came up with what we have presently as minimum and a maximum, I guess.
It was a design build bid.
Yes.
Yes.
And they were all mandatory walkthroughs.
Right.
All those companies walk through the building, they understand the layout, the issues of the building, the odd shape of the building, and everything.
Mike, okay, or no? Question, you still have a question? Did you two met with each company, is that, did I understand that? And you walked through and told them, Mike, you had.
And we're just basically covering all points of entry, like inside and outside?
All around the building,
Yep.
on the exterior, and the cameras that would be inside of the building capture all the entrances and exits, windows.
And then do we have, like, there's not really any exit and exit out of Kerry's, out of the tax assessor's office or upstairs or the kitchen. Are those included in that, or those are all,
Any side of the building will be captured, or every side on the building will be captured with the cameras, so that there are no windows or exterior doors, access to the building from the ground that wouldn't be captured by these cameras. So essentially, it's a secure surround of the building. From inside the building, we have certain doors and areas that have to be protected. They will be with the camera, they'll be monitored with a camera, but just because of where they are, they monitor things like windows that can be accessed from the outside, where somebody can come into the building or leave the building through a window.
okay,
If that answers your question.
I think so.
Well, I think Mike asked, if there's not a specific camera inside the kitchen.
No.
Right, is
Like
that
the
right?
kitchen's covered from outside.
It's covered
so
from
not-
outside.
But from
Outside
outside.
eating lunch, it's
No.
not recording that
The
eating lunch.
areas where vital records are stored, where transactions take place, in certain secure areas, they're the ones that are monitored. You know, the individual offices, with the exception of the business office, isn't monitored by the camera.
Okay.
So in essence, this is not Big Brother, it's Little Brother.
We hope. Well, I think, I heard a comment today that in jest, someone passed a remark that even the kitchen that would be watching, but that was in jest, but I think some people aren't sure when people are kidding or not. Is that, did I capture that correctly, Steve?
Yeah.
See him smirk, see the guilty parties in the back of the room there. You must put everyone at ease here. Well, they're afraid they could be
That's pretty
drooling,
funny.
and you could be watching them and while they're eating. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make light of this. This is serious. This is serious. Okay, is there other discussion? Are we ready to vote? Is there a motion to accept the town sergeant's recommendation?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion is made and seconded. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Oh, you didn't have to hide. Thank you, both of you, for moving this forward. Item 9E has been a sidebar and now coming to the table. Some discussion has ensued with regard to an ordinance relating to the processing of motor vehicle property damage arising from pothole effects in municipal roadways. Manny, yes, I know. Manny, did you want to
Sure.
speak to this? I know you've been
Sure.
talking about that.
Yes, thank you. The fact that there was no pothole ordinance in Exeter was brought to my attention by Director Matchak. I did a quick search of, I don't know, 10 or 12 towns. Pretty much every town and city has an ordinance dealing with potholes and the procedure to make a claim and to get paid. Director Matchak and I worked over some language. We sent it to the solicitor, who then provided an enormous amount of help with the ordinance that you see in front of you. It basically mirrors a state statute that says when a person can make a claim for damage to their vehicle, they cap it at $300. Per Director Matchak's suggestion, I think it's a good idea that we approve the ordinance so that there's clarification and process whereby a Exeter resident can make a claim for pothole damage and present it to the town and to the director. So I support the ordinance that's in front of you, and we've had the help of the solicitor in drafting it.
Thanks, Manny. I mean, you highlighted it.
Do you want me to go through it a little more? I mean,
No, I don't
don't
know
wanna
if it
read the
should
whole
be.
thing.
I know, sometimes for the record, it is read. There's detail here about notices given and so forth, initial telephone report, then claimant within 24 hours notifies the director by, there's a phone number here, and I assume this would be made available to them through town hall here if they call, obviously they get, how do I proceed? Then there's a follow-up with a written report. It says no claim shall be paid unless the claimant has within a period of 7 days filed a written report with the clerk detailing the date, time, circumstances, and so forth, and all of the particulars required. And then processing. All properly submitted claims will be referred by the clerk to the Public Works Director, who shall investigate the claim, report findings to the council and make the final recommendation to the council within 30 days of the completion of the investigation. Council shall thereafter consider the claim, public works director's report and recommendation shall be a final determination. All claims approved by the council shall be paid by the treasurer in due course thereafter. Well, thank you, Mary. Is there discussion of this proposal? Would you please?
Yeah, there's one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention, including Steve's. It's something that we forget often because we see these things every now and then. The state statute makes it very clear that in order for a person to be able to recover from the town has to have had reasonable prior notice of the existence of the problem. And that's simply because people need to know that there's something wrong before they can act and before they can be held liable for it. So that's really an important thing that, that needs to be remembered, and that if you're talking to people who are thinking about seeking to get reimbursed, there needs to have been some report, or it's been there so long that the town should have known about it by reasonably inspecting. And that's a requirement. So, and I think Steve's the one who, and Manny suggested this initial telephone report. That's not in state law, that's something new that we're adding. But I think that it kind of goes well with the concept of prior notice. And rewarding a person who hits a pothole, they should call immediately to let the town know that that's there, so that the town can get out there and prevent future damage. If a person just sits on the fact that they hit a pothole, they may be doing damage to others and not letting the town know about it. So while that particular provision was added by Steve and Manny, I think it's a good one, because it really furthers the requirement that the town get to these things in a reasonable time after reasonable notice, and that there's no liability if there's neither of those two components.
Certainly entertain a motion to adopt.
I make that motion, Mr. President.
I'll second.
Motion is made and seconded to adopt this ordinance relating to pothole damage claims. I don't know that I'm sorry, but now as I'm reading it once again, it wouldn't necessarily only be potholes, am I right? It could be other damage sustained.
Well, the statute actually uses the term pothole. I was gonna change it, and then I saw that the statute actually uses that term. So, I left it.
Okay.
It could be that, if there's something, some other type of a defect in the road, I don't know, an iron pole sticking out of it or something, that you might be able to access this, but that's the wording, it's right in the state law.
Good.
Well, there's one other thing that I want to bring to your attention. The prior notice section, it gives a telephone number. We have to remember this, because, I mean, they try to give people notice of who they should call, when they should call, and this talks about a telephone number. I believe that's Steve's town cell number. I don't know if that changes in the future. It could be that, who knows, cell phones maybe.
That's the garage phone number.
Sorry?
That's the garage.
Okay.
See, that's where I got a question at on this.
Those things might change, that's my only point, so we have to keep on top of that, that if those change, you need to amend your ordinance.
Okay, my question is, timely notice of accident, filing a detailed written post-accident claim report, initial telephone report.
Right.
You have to do that first?
Well,
Yes.
yes, the initial
Okay.
telephone, hang on, I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
The first initial report, if you read that, it doesn't say that it's required, but it doesn't say that you have to, that if you fail to do that within 24 hours, you can't get paid. The second provision is a requirement, 7 days, within 7 days, you gotta
That
get
one I don't have a problem with, it's the phone one. Say it happens on a Friday night, someone calls that garage number.
which is why it doesn't.
Or they call, they gotta wait till Monday to call the town clerk
Which-
to see what do they do.
Dan, which is why it says, it does not say, no claim shall be paid unless, like the next
Okay.
section does. And so, I mean, this is trying to get people to get the notice out quickly. But if push came to shove and they said, hey, I couldn't get to you, because it was a Friday night, just like you said, and the garage wasn't closed, the next, wasn't open the
Yeah,
next day.
because most people are gonna call here first, the
Well, they
town
may,
hall,
they may.
so,
But that, this is to try to get that notice out as
Okay.
soon as quickly.
that was
as
my
they
question.
Jim, I can answer that. The reason that number's there is because it's a 24-hour system where the machine tells them to call dispatch if there's any type of an emergency, and then dispatch has orders to call me,
Yeah,
and then I can take care of it if it's a serious thing. We just had one of those on Trips Corner Road, one of the big rainstorms about 2 or 3 months ago. There was a big pothole, I got called on the weekend, went around and fixed it. Because that's how we found out about it. It happened on a weekend, but they called the shop, they actually followed and listened to the message, they called dispatch called me, and I fixed the problem. So that's why we use that number, because it is monitored, and it gives them who to call in an emergency.
I shouldn't have doubted that you had that figured out, thank you. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Manny, and Steve, Jim, for working on this. Motion's on the table, it's been seconded. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. And the last item under new business is something we a little struggled with. Manny brought this to my attention.
Did we do
I'm
F?
sorry.
F, Frank?
Oh, so sorry. Yep, I kept reading it, passed right over it. Sorry, thank you. F, New England truck pullers have asked that we consider a change of date, went through a public hearing process. Apparently a situation has arisen where they're asking us to consider a change of date. And I'm told by Madam Clerk that there's someone here who'd like to speak to that. Would that be you?
That would be I.
Thank you. Tell us why you'd like us to do this.
We've had a few things come up. One is a wedding for somebody that's in the group, that a lot of people will be attending. So we can keep attendance up, we'd like to change it to the previous week and then have the rain date for the Sunday on the 22nd. So we do the pull on the 15th and then the rain date on the 22nd.
15th is a
Sunday.
Sunday.
And we originally were scheduled for the 21st. The wedding that we have is on the 21st. So we're hoping for some rain, but we'd at least be able to capture some of the people.
Well, I think this is my confusion. 21st is a Saturday, then, correct? But now you're switching it to the previous Sunday. Rather than just...
Correct. It just didn't work out because they have a rehearsal date or whatever, rehearsal, I don't know.
Sure, no, that's
Wedding
okay.
starts.
That's okay. I remember, and again, usually they're Saturdays. Is that
Correct, but we
Some-
had asked and when we came
Yes.
last time and you said that Sunday would be okay, so they had asked at our last meeting if we could do that.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, my suggestion is going to be that we grant your request, even though we've gone through the public hearing process. I'm going to make that a motion, but then I'm going to add a little something to the motion. But I'm going to move that we grant that request. This will be for discussion. And you'll second it for consideration and discussion. Well, my thought is, if we do this, then I would ask Madam Clerk to notify those people that are always notified by regulation here that there has been a change of date, and hope that this will not provide or cause any inconvenience to the people in, you know, in your neighborhood, so that they know that something's happening on a Sunday rather than the usual Saturday.
Absolutely.
And if we could do that, I would think that would be appropriate, give it a try. So that's the motion, and you've seconded it. Is there discussion? Is there some concern? Ask the young lady questions. You see, she's been so patient.
And you almost bypassed me.
No, this would just be a letter. This would just be regular mail sent out to these people.
I don't know how many letters there were.
But you have them on the original, these applications. I know you always list people in the area that are noticed about it.
Yeah.
And so, 6 or 8, 5 or 6, but it's never all that many. But if you do a letter, it's just send it to them. I think that would be appropriate. Other questions, concerns? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Lynn, is there additional charge?
They're having the pull on the 15th, and the rain date is the 22nd.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
You paid enough by coming here and waiting for us. Under item 10, Ken, we haven't had a chance to. Oh, no, now, that's what I wanted to do in the first place, was the fish property. Come on, people, sorry, I'm tired. So here's the interesting question, and everybody has this, because I've been here when people walk in. What is it, what's happened, and now, of course, it's for sale. Manny, speak to it, you're the reason we put this on the
Yes,
agenda.
Mr. President, I put this on the agenda because I feel it's becoming a public safety issue. I drive 102, as many of us do, multiple times a day, and pretty much every time I drive by this particular location, there are vehicles either stopped dead in the middle of the road or pulled over to either side of the road, and then they merge into traffic without even looking. I know there have been, at least, there's been a number of accidents. I know of at least one that Mr. Sadler is going to talk about if we feel it's appropriate. I'm not sure what can be done, and apparently from the story in the Providence Journal, this is a structure that was built, or is halfway built, and the gentleman who's doing it has run out of money, and it's sort of sitting there. And then when the paper, the Journal got a hold of it, it's really increased the flow of traffic in front of this location. And I'm afraid that there's going to be a serious accident with one of the vehicles who either stops in the road to take a selfie picture or merges into the road without looking. And I think we have an obligation to try to figure out if there's something we can do to decrease the public safety issue. And aside from the public safety issue, I think it's becoming a big nuisance issue. And I stopped by and spoke to Mr. Sadler, who's here in the audience tonight along with his wife, to let him know that I sympathize with what he's done. And he's had people all over his property to take pictures. He's had to take measures that when you go there, you'll see that they're extraordinary measures that really no resident should have to put up with. And so I wanted to put this on the agenda so that we could have a conversation to see what can be done. And honestly, I don't know what can be done, but I'd like to maybe get the building inspector here and try to figure out what we can do to make the public safety issue paramount and to help decrease the nuisance of the neighbors in the area.
You know, I realize that this is a potential safety problem, and in a minute I'd like to address what I think might be help to alleviate it. But in terms of the structure being there, my understanding is the zoning inspector was given a request to build a barn there. I assume, and I don't know for a fact whether he was presented drawings or not, or what it would look like, but whether he did receive them or not, I don't know that he would have too much in the way of enforcement for the design of the building, because I don't think we have design standards, specific design standards that would have prohibited it. I'd like to put a plug in for something the planning board has been working on and is still in the works, and that's to establish a scenic overlay district, scenic 102 scenic overlay district, which as part of that ordinance would have some control over what is built along the highway in order to prevent things that well, other things that we may even be aware of at this point occurring along Route 102. In terms of the building inspector, once the building inspector receives clearance from the zoning officer, it's strictly a safety issue in terms of the building construction. So I don't know that there's much that can be done enforcement there, although I'll defer to the solicitor on those legal issues. As far as trying to alleviate the situation in terms of safety right now, I think the only thing that probably we can do that might be practical and realistic is somehow to screen the front of the area, primarily with plantings, is what I would recommend. Other than that, I
Well, let me just say, I understand your point about having the ability to say, we don't want you to build like that. I personally don't like that. I feel if a person has property and they want to build something, they should be allowed to build. What maybe we should have done was anticipate this exact problem happening. And whoever was responsible for, whether it's zoning or building, and I defer to you on the process because I don't know about that, but maybe we should have thought ahead of time and said, hey, this is gonna bring a lot of people in, and maybe we should have required the building owner to provide parking spaces so people could pull over, so they wouldn't be pulling over in Mr. Sadler's part. And maybe that's something we can do. And the other thing I would question is if a building permit is granted to someone to build a building 100%, but they only go 30% or 40%, isn't there something that the town can do to enforce them to either finish it or take it off the property?
I would think there'd be something to do, as long as, if it becomes a safety issue, I would think that the town might have some.
And I think it's become a safety issue, and please, Mr. Sadler, if you want to hear from him, Mr. President, he witnessed at least one accident. I'm going to talk to the state police to see about other accidents.
No, I do want to hear, this discussion's kind of going in a direction I wouldn't have anticipated, because all your concerns are valid, but I think we gotta figure out if there's something we can do about safety on that road now, which of course being a state road, we don't really have control over. But we got people here that maybe can help us and be advocate for us to do something, with some, I don't know what we can do, but that's where I thought we would be having this discussion.
That's why I wanted to put it on the agenda, so maybe we could keep it on for October, and collectively we can all go back and put our thinking caps up and talk to zoning, talk to building, see what we can do.
Temporary sign, I don't know about temporary signs, but begging Belleville Garage, begging DOT to put some kind of signs, but I don't know, what they're gonna put, no parking all along in front of your house? I mean, I don't know what that's gonna do, but.
Now you're gonna have sign pollution.
What place?
Sign pollution.
Yeah, well, but.
It's better than somebody getting killed.
Exactly.
And I think that's what's gonna happen.
They did that up on Route 3, when they redid Route 3, they
Yeah.
had signs all the way down the center of the road, and telling people what they were supposed to be doing. Somebody complained about it, the state came in and took all the signs right out again.
No, I understand, well, it's, that, you fenced your yard off, didn't you? Yeah, I mean, when I got that message from him, I thought, what's happened? It's serious, I know.
If I may make
Please,
a constructive,
Please do,
suggestion.
please do.
Two things that I think could be done very inexpensively and rather quickly. Number one would be to put a tarp on the top of the building so you can't see the eyes and the mouth and the fins.
We've asked the owner's son via text message, and we have yet to see it happen.
Yeah, but
The second suggestion I would have, again, very easy, very quick, and that would be to eliminate the area in front of the Jonah's Well House to keep people from parking there. Something as simple as a little fence, something that people can't pull off the road right there.
We have signs up all
I
along.
mean, we have a fence and we have signs, but people don't read, they don't, signs don't matter.
If I might be allowed, Mr. President.
please,
I served on active duty in the United States Navy from '97 to 2005. Our property has 8 security cameras. I've provided security surveillance to the state police. They've been at our property. I don't feel safe. That is why they are up. There was a red minivan. To whomever's watching on YouTube, I am aware you are here. They drove up and parked. I will not repeat publicly what they said to my husband, but it was intimidating, sir. Giving us the impression they were there to steal more or look for keys to ATVs that were stolen from our property. But that's not why we're here. I'm here because my children are also on the property who are teenagers, witnessing grown women my own age parking at 729 10 Rod Road beyond the mailbox and walking on a 45-mile-an-hour road, crossing, and on video saying to me, we're just taking selfies. I don't know why they're crossing, but I would ask a perfectly normal question. Would you cross the highway to take a selfie? Why would you cross this busy intersection? That's my concern. I have multiple videos and photos. I also am going to my veteran representative to express my safety concerns, as I do not want any of my 5 children to witness somebody getting hit by a car walking across this road. I do not want them to witness one more accident. There was a car that ended up in the field, Sarah's old field. That front field has been corralled off because 3 out of the 4 cows were pregnant. People are climbing the fence and harassing the cows. I love this town. I moved out here for peace and quiet after I retired from the Navy. I got out honorably. We just want some help, please.
We hear you, please. You're absolutely, wait, now, I wanna go back to the gentleman who said, what were your easy solutions? And what we wanna know, was one of them tarp?
A tarp.
That was one.
A tarp.
Okay, that
The
was,
second, okay, the other one is, again, right along 102, there are 4 or 5 different locations where you could pull off the road and not really be on the road, but if that was taken away, that would make it harder for people. They can slow down, but they can't pull over and then try to get back on when cars are going 50 miles an hour, you know.
you're talking about right in front of this structure?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I had to do on my property. I had to fence it off.
No, I saw it.
But you don't want to, your property
No,
it doesn't have to be like that, shouldn't have to be like that.
No.
You don't want your house looking like that.
No, I don't.
Mr. President, may I suggest, as I said, everyone put on their thinking cap. Put this on the agenda for the October meeting, and can we send a letter to the building owner and ask them to come in and explain our concerns? And rather than try to hit somebody over the head to make them do something, maybe we can get things done cooperatively.
Sure.
Can we do that?
Sure.
I tried to contact Mr. President, I really did. I tried to speak with the son.
That's all right, let us do that. We'll
Thank
come in
you.
and we'll chit chat.
Thank you.
All right?
A question raised here, would it be, Jim's wondering if, should it be a work session that we conduct with these?
Great idea. Yep.
If we do it during the month of September, and we don't see, and we could also, well, I mean, we can also, if that doesn't seem to take us anywhere, we can, you know, put it on an agenda for other business, like in October. Maybe we can set something up here in the next week or so, and invite them in. Work sessions are public, you know, it's just, okay. Yeah, let's have someone, a member of the zoning board, speak to us. Yes, Tom?
One thing I think you might ought to look at, the zoning limits one accessory building with a primary building on any property. That property currently has 2 accessory buildings and no primary. That would seem to me to at least potentially be a zoning violation in and of itself. And perhaps could lead you to some means of having the building taken down.
Something to look at.
Because.
That back barn's on a separate lot.
I'm
Is
sorry.
it
That little red barn,
Yes.
it's on a separate lot.
The young lady seems to know.
The red barn is on a separate lot.
Well, then there's there's an accessory building with no primary.
It all depends on what they pull the permit for. Does it say dwelling? We don't know. We don't
My
know.
understanding is he put.
It said barn, yeah.
My understanding is he.
I'm suggesting something for you to look
Well,
at.
I guess what I'm
Yes.
saying, get the permit and look at what they put on it when they filled out the application. It's right there.
Now, when the town issues a building permit, is there a statutes of limitations of that building permit, that the building has to be completed by
That's
X
the
amount of
question I had.
time?
Isn't it?
It has to be started within a year.
Substantially started.
Pretty loose.
But no end date on completion?
I don't think so.
Wow, that's interesting.
I've got one near me that's been working on it 15 years. It's got trees growing off the roof, so.
I was just, yeah, it has to do with completing a building. I can remember people telling the stories years ago about we're not putting a front step in, because then the building isn't completed, so then we're not gonna be taxed as a completed building. Those are the old, that was, it's an old, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And Dan said something about a building that's under construction with trees growing out of it. I don't know, are you making that up? No, I'm just teasing. No, I know, I'm kidding.
You know,
I'm kidding.
I think Tom has a point that should be investigated. If that's an accessory structure without a primary structure on that lot, I would think that the appeal could be made to the zoning board of the zoning inspector's approval of it. It would fall into the zoning board's jurisdiction to deal with that.
The structure, I'm thinking about what you said about places for people to pull over, which, whatever. And I'm thinking of the wooden things that are on either side of the fence. Well, those draw attention and make it what is this? That's even more. So between a cover and removing those which invite, what's this? Is it a zoo? Are we having a zoo here? I'm just saying. So why don't we try a work session this month, fast, and ask Lynn to invite these people in and say that we have serious concerns and we need to address them.
If I may, one more thing.
Sure.
So, a lady pulled up, and there's a sign on my side of the road from this highway is taken by the church. You've seen the sign?
Oh.
Yeah.
Seen it. Oh.
So the lady pulled over, and there was this stuck to the pole. I'm like, what's this? So they call it geocaching. So this is on the internet. So people come from all over to because of the whale house.
It's 2019.
So this is a little magnet container, and inside it's a roll of paper with all these different people's names and their date, and they.
Who went there? They just tagged it, basically.
Yeah, it's like a
Pokemon Go game.
Yeah.
Basically, we are celebrities minus the fence and the security gentleman.
So it's like, we got stuff like
Minus
this.
the benefits and
That too.
I'm just saying that it's just getting.
I think we need a fire control.
Okay, well,
It's a public nuisance and a public nuisance.
I tell you, there are plenty of places.
You can't miss the need
Okay,
signs.
What I was gonna say is, to the work session,
continued, all right, work session under discussion, Frank.
I would be advisable to have the zoning inspector and the building inspector at that
Yes.
meeting.
Forgive me.
Yes, please.
I would think so. I think we need to collectively get together and figure out what
What
to
are
do
we gonna
before
do
somebody
with
gets
this?
killed.
Would either of you wanna come by, people, I know you can't, what are you gonna do for the highway, but any suggestions about I don't know, what kind of sign you put up? No parking? That's not, people are gonna ignore that.
We've
And
got.
you
could actually
Steve,
All right, first thing, because it's a state highway,
I know you.
all right, you have to put an official complaint in to the state police, to the town of Exeter, town council. All right, then they can forward that to DOT, all right? Then there'll be a recommendation come back from DOT on a solution. And basically, they'll put up no stopping ahead or no parking. But that's all DOT's probably willing to do, other than you might be able to have something about the location where they built up that entranceway, because it's still on state property. So that DOT may be able to speak to the entranceway and their little monument things that they put up. So but you have to make that official complaint to the state police, to the town council, and the DOT.
Do you know what happens when the
And-
cars stop though?
Oh, I understand exactly what's going on.
Only because I've
It's-
taken
that's
video
not-
of those.
I'm trying to get the ball started in the right way.
Okay.
If you don't do this step, you're gonna have to
Yes.
go back.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that is the first step you have to do to file a complaint. with
State police, town council, and who else?
DOT.
DOT, okay.
Right out.
Thank you.
That's for any safety concern on a state highway. We have another one that's gonna be coming to us on 165 for Blind Hill.
And with the state police, you'll have to go to the Hope Valley Barracks.
Yes.
For that one, yeah.
But while, okay, now I'm gonna be a devil's advocate here, while you're directing these people who live across the street, unfortunately. We've now been told tonight about a significant issue of safety. Can we also generate a letter to the state police indicating that we've addressed this issue and it is a significant?
They still have to
safety-
make the initial
I know,
to
but-
everybody, and then from there, everything
Well-
you can also send. But you may wanna wait for the official complaint that goes to everybody.
Is there a form or just a
No, I don't
letter?
believe so.
Okay.
Excuse me. Is it all right to make a comment?
Well, let me finish this a minute. So if you want to, I'm not gonna throw this at Madam Clerk, but if you happen to stop by, she may be able to get you, addresses or
Email.
something, place to help you address it appropriately. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
I know
Just,
exactly what you mean.
get us engaged. If you already
Be done tomorrow.
You already are. Steve, is that okay? I mean,
No,
help
that's the
us.
first thing you have to do, before
Okay.
you can
Alright.
really do a month.
I think then we're gonna try this
Yes.
work session thing. Do we see, we have the calendar, you just gave it to us. Why don't we pick a date when nothing's happening here? Where is that calendar? Is it right under here? We have a calendar. We have a calendar. I can find everything but, come on people, you all got a calendar tonight. Here it is, I got it. So, look, have you got your calendar, Ken? Let's see if we see it. Oh, you, sorry, we're doing housekeeping here, we're looking for dates. You should know, choose a date.
That's why they don't want a calendar in my office, see what I'm doing.
So, next week is Monday night, the 9th, which is next Monday. Is that okay to try?
Yeah.
I mean, the sooner the better. Then the next day's Tuesday, there's nothing, there's planning board here that night. Wednesday, this isn't available, because people are here. Thursday, zoning is here, and we don't do really, now we get to the following Monday. Juvenile hearing board, Tuesday is economic task force. Okay, I'm just looking.
Thursday the 19th is
Zoning board meet that day?
No, that was the first one.
No, see, it's over here, there's nothing down for 19. So should we try that? Let's go for 19. I mean, at least, September 19th, at least it gives time to notify and within, say, hey, day after tomorrow, I want to see you. Go to the 19th, try. Okay?
Time.
Work session.
6:30?
Time. Manny, time.
6:30, please, Mr. President.
Okay. Well, we could go, no, 6:30 is fine. This is important. I'd say 7, but he doesn't.
Mr. President, I'm glad to defer to you, 7 o'clock is fine.
No, Manny, for you. You brought the issue up, we'll do 6:30.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, Ken, 19th, Thursday night? Right, is that what we said?
You guys gonna be here?
We can
Okay.
be, yes.
So this is.
Gentlemen.
Okay, just had a comment as an observation.
Yes.
I think you might want to think about this when you have your meeting is, what would you do if that facility was complete? You're gonna have the exact same issue. If he finishes it off and opens it up as a business, nothing changes.
That's a residential property that's not zoned for business.
Well, whatever it is, if it's finished, one thing was to try to make them finish it.
Okay, well, no, that's a very good question. I think one of the reasons that we wanted planning and.
No, when you have the work session, just be,
Yeah.
in case he says, I'm gonna finish it,
Sure.
To me, it doesn't matter if it's finished or unfinished, it's still a public safety hazard, either way.
Gonna be.
Well, yeah, I wonder if originally there were any plans for parking, which I think there probably were not.
One of the things I was questioning.
Of course, because if you're gonna do this thing, I mean, you said you're gonna build a barn. I've said to people, well, anyone that's got enough property could build a barn, I thought, even though we're talking about it being accessory. But now, it's not a barn, it's a business, or it was intended to be a business, and now what was the parking? I don't think there was any provision. So all the way around, we need to address this.
Can we make sure we have the applications here, any applications that were filed by the applicant for the work session?
Sure, we'll ask,
Applications, permits,
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll ask
The zoning
Lori,
certificate and the building
everything
permit.
that was issued, okay?
certificate,
The building
drawings.
permit.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
any
yeah, anything that came with
renderings,
the application.
any renderings. Okay,
Thank you.
no, it's okay, let's go for the 19th and see if we can help. Everybody needs it, you need it more than anyone.
No.
Okay, we didn't move, I didn't make a motion to do that, we directed you to set it up, I think that's sufficient,
Yeah, I agree.
okay?
And it'll go forward regardless if the owner shows or not?
Oh, I think so, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Now,
You guys are all set.
We're gonna go get something to eat.
I don't
Thank you,
blame
guys.
thank you,
Thank you.
come back on
Rick, shoot me an
the
email if you have any questions, right?
I got it.
Okay.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna take my little geotag off the sign now.
Now we go to where I thought we were half an hour ago. And this is with regard to workplace harassment. Here's, okay, you've seen the communication that Lynn has sent through to us. The trust does in fact provide some training. There were dates given 4, 6, and 12. I'm going to suggest, think about that now, that we ask Lynn to go back and get some other dates later in September and set up a morning session here, and we'll indicate that when we get a date, we'll indicate that the town hall will close for, I don't know, we could close the town hall for training session from like 9 to 10. You know what I mean? And have staff here, and then invite everybody else who can come. Because you can't ask people to come during the day, but at least start with that as a kickoff, and ask Paul if he'll come, once we get new dates, because this is next week. You wanna try? for
Yeah,
new
yeah,
dates?
yeah. Do you want me to dates for September or dates for October, so you can,
I'd say whatever, so, later in September?
they give me some dates and I pick them?
Should we wait until, later September or early October? And at this point, it's been something to consider for quite a time, but you and I wanna work it together, you get some dates, you and I'll sit down and we'll do it, okay? We'll set something up. Do you think mornings, we'll say morning, if they can come in the morning? Don't you think it would be appropriate to close the office and say it's for training purposes, give notice? And all the buddy that works here can come to, and then the rest of us,
boards, commissions,
and let them know once we get a date. But not everybody's gonna,
volunteers?
anyone, say it's open. We're having a workplace harassment, important to attend if you can.
How many people have been, I was gonna say, do we need to go to the fire station?
No. Yes?
Yes.
No.
We only can have, what, 46 in
40.
here?
40
That's a lot of
people. Oh.
I don't think we're gonna get the response.
All right, we'll try to work it out. If we get stuck, we'll get back to it, work session date on the 19th and tell you we're stuck. And then we'll we'll put that on the work session agenda, just to see if we need to, you know what I mean?
You're gonna put it on the other?
Well, just for us to see what we can bring back to them, like you and me together and find dates and, all right? Ready? Anything else? Is that all right to move ahead in that direction? Any update, excuse me, regarding the comprehensive plan?
Do you need some more?
No, I'm good, thanks. I don't know, I have not heard any more, I don't know.
No, they have.
Well, let's move on to the website status, which I think we're on hold, am I right, Manny, until we have Genesis in place? And-
Yes, well, more James Angie than anybody
Yes,
else. Now that he's been
exactly.
appointed, I will get a meeting
Exactly.
going in September, and I'll reach out to Mr. Angie.
Good, thank you. Now, regarding the transfer station purchase, first of all, I'm just gonna ask for the record, a brief update, still work in progress, and Jim, just for the record, you.
Sure.
know now.
Yeah, you all know the status right now. We're trying to put together the administrative process of subdivision, and everyone is cooperating. The problem right now is apparently with the surveyor, attempting to get the surveyor actually out there at the site. She has apparently already met with the planner and the lawyer, and since then has been unable to get to the property. So I asked Paul Solito, our lawyer, who's handling this, to see if we could step on the gas and get that done, light a fire under the surveyor. And I tried calling him today to get his update and was unable to reach him. So as soon as I know more, I will. I told him actually that if we can't get that moving quickly, we're gonna have to look for another surveyor to get it done.
Okay.
Because there's no real good reason I can think of for taking this long just to get out and start dealing with it. So, Paul was supposed to get back to me on that. He expressed to me the last time I spoke with him, which was after our last meeting, that he was growing very frustrated with that situation. So hopefully I'll know more for you shortly, but that's where it's at. There's nothing major that's holding things up. It's just simply problem of getting somebody out there to do the job.
Thanks. I'm gonna take this opportunity to say that because the purchase is pending, once that purchase is completed, I've been talking to Steve also, and maybe others of you have, there'll be some changes in the ordinance that will, or the, regulations that will end up being made. Steve has thoughts about things he wants to do there as well. And one of the thoughts that came up today, as we're talking about the transfer station stickers, think about this, because it's all part of, we're now gonna own the site, what are we gonna do? And we're thinking that changing the date to October 1st and giving everyone next year a free month, so that it doesn't fall on Labor Day, so that the holiday is perplexing the people that are trying to staff the town hall. And so that's a future consideration, to change the date from September 1st to October 1st. That's not for tonight, it's just something to think about. It's about the transfer station, so I just threw it in there.
Are you gonna talk about opening on Saturday, Sunday?
Oh,
Is that-
well, yeah, there's no other place other than maybe under administrative, let's do administrative issues regarding opening some Saturdays, Sundays going forward. And Mike had a plan, probably was a good one. Didn't you say do it before? I said do it after, now we need to do it before. Okay, let's go on. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Request from the planning board regarding a liaison. We do have a notification of communication that the board, planning board has voted to have Bill Cross represent the planning board. On the
One
transfer.
question I had, when I raised this issue, my intent was to have him sit as a voting member of the.
Not as a voting or as?
As a voting member. Want to keep it as a liaison, that's the way it's put out.
I think a liaison makes sense, because if something, if an idea happens and it comes to planning after that, that liaison's gonna need to vote as a member of the planning board. So if they're voting to both send it to the planning board and then add the planning board, that way, kind of causes trouble.
Well, I don't see a problem.
But,
you know,
well, to Mike's point, liaison, it's just kind of written, somebody has an idea that, ideas that are out there.
right.
Maybe he's thinking a planning board member, well, this poses this issue. I'm not, well, anyway, I know you said you thought it
I
should be
definitely think
voted.
it makes sense to have.
Somebody there, yeah, I agree with you.
Well, see, I think of a liaison as somebody that's primarily reporting back
Yeah.
what's going on, as opposed to a member who actually participate in the
But-
discussion.
Well,
Because their motions obviously are just internal, they can't write ordinances or anything.
No,
They're
no, I-
advisory to the council.
I know.
But my intent was to have them, my intent was to have them an active member of the task force. It's presented as a liaison, so.
Well, let's leave it for now, and then it's, but, well, I understand both points.
The task force has been really good about accepting
Points of view
points of view
from anybody who's. Because you've been going.
an open conversation.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Let's leave it for now. If we decide we need to kind of readdress it,
And we'll be Bill on.
we'll be Bill. It's a motion to appoint him as a liaison, or at least recognize him, acknowledge him. Make that motion.
I'll make a
Motion that he be noted for the record that will be the liaison from the planning board, and seconded by Manny. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. The reason that I wanted Genesis to remain on the agenda is because it's appropriate for us to have a quick update. Because now that they're on board, and now that James Angie's gonna be working with them, he already has been. Ken, speak about, a little bit about this.
Well, I don't know if the council will remember on the 15th, you voted and authorized Cal to sign the agreement if there were no substantial changes made. So the following Thursday, we met here at Town Hall with Genesis, James came, Cal signed the document. And we went and did a walkthrough of what we had. James has already been working with him this last Saturday. Cal said we were here for about 4 or 5 hours, adding a new firewall and what Genesis wanted. James is working very closely with them, he knows what he's talking about. And Genesis is right on target for where we need to be. So we just have to come up with, I think, a way that James will be able to report to the council on a monthly basis. So maybe a written report. I've already talked to him about what Genesis did. He should verify the bill and activities, as though the system in place, he will log in and check what Genesis has done for us. And provide that to the council. And, not just blindly sign the bill, to verify.
Does it make sense to put him in the reports section so that we can get a report from the IT director every month if there's something there?
It used to be there, it's probably, maybe it's been removed, but we used to have.
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
No,
The next page.
Not yet, but go back to reports, but we probably had taken it out.
Yeah, I don't see it.
No, let's ask Glenn to put it back in.
You want that under consent?
Well, under reports, maybe, and then we'll get the report, under these reports. Yes, but then if there's something that we need to look at more carefully, we'll remove it.
Yeah, as opposed to reports of office,
Right.
number 11.
Yeah, I don't think, you don't mean 11, do you? You mean on
No.
the regular report?
Yes, number 6.
Yeah, number 6. Sounds like a plan. Lynn, you have that?
You can either read it or hear it in person, you're still not gonna understand it, so.
Well, yeah, and I do want to say this about when I was here meeting with the Genesis principals, we talked about that role that James, or whoever it would be, he's been working as a consultant, as you know, up until tonight, when he was, that's his capacity when he's here Saturday, working as a consultant, helping to get this thing to make sure. Interesting conversations with him. But the Genesis principal said to us, to me and Ken, they thought it was really very important to have someone like James in place to be the sort of point person. And it's already been proven this past week that having somebody like him is really important, because he jumped in, worked with Genesis, but then ended up solving it himself, because Genesis is not up to speed. It's a process. Which brings me to, I don't mean to cut anybody off, Ken, anything else?
One thing is there gonna be a protocol on how we should, like,
James
we
will-
haven't got the help desk number yet or anything?
No,
Do you
James
know
will
if
be
that's
there.
all coming?
We'll give
James
James
gonna
a
be-
chance to come up with that.
James gonna,
James will,
Okay.
He's the IT director.
he's gonna do that?
Yes.
James will, he's not gonna leave you, he's not gonna leave anybody here stranded, I can tell that, just from what he's already done.
He's already done an awful lot.
He already
You don't
has.
even know.
And with regard to Genesis, this is not related, except that what you just got tonight, make sure you read it, from Homeland Security. It's about ransomware outbreaks and all the tips to make sure it's prevented. And I'm sure he could have written this with great explanation, but we should make sure he gets a copy of it, just so he knows what we have here. This was passed along to us from the planning, the canvassers this morning. They got this on protecting themselves. We all know how important that is. Okay? Anything else? Any other questions about going forward with our new IT service?
No.
Then move on to H, and this is with regard to the proposed ordinance regarding buildings and building regulations and so forth, and, well, that's not I.
What's the impact fees?
This is the impact fee, huh?
These are impact fees, exactly. I'm prepared if you do. Ken, what's our status?
I'm still working on it, and it's not even, I have it in draft form, but it's really gonna be a bunch of questions to Jim. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. Then moving on to the last item under unfinished business is this proposed amendment relating to accessory dwelling units. Timely topic tonight, isn't it? Anyway, there's a recommendation here from the planning board that you've probably all seen. Frank, do you want to speak to that briefly? Just
Yeah. The planning board has varied opinions on the board concerning this issue, and has not come to a consensus as to how to deal with this. Biggest concern is the fact that they're concerned about this becoming a second dwelling on the property down the line, and how to keep that from occurring. So they want to take a look at this, a closer look before they present their opinion.
Yeah, Frank, that's great, and obviously, you know, that's important, but just make sure that they understand, my understanding is.
The statute, they have to meet the
This
statute.
is what the statute says, so anything that the planning board can come up with has to be obviously not contradictory to the statute.
Right.
And not more restrictive than the statute, it has to be within the framework. So, I mean, whatever, certainly the planning board needs time, it's a good thing that they do that.
And the thing, you know, I have some issues, but I'll probably save them for the public hearing when this comes before it. And my concerns are more with the imposition with the statute on our home rule charter, which is probably something that I'd like to address down the line, because this is not the first instance of
Yeah, the problem with that, as you might guess, is the state law, even despite home rule, says that if it's an area of statewide concern and applicable to all cities and towns, the state retains that jurisdiction to do that. So I don't know where that gets you, really, the home rule. Believe me, I'm a great home rule advocate, but there are certain losing battles. And that's one of them, I think, where you're talking about a state statute that applies to everybody across the board concerning an area of statewide concern,
Right.
you're in trouble.
But that's something I think that needs to be addressed. And this is obviously not the time to address it.
Right.
But I'm just a shout across the bow, this is something that I will be trying to tackle.
So I would suggest that we ask Lynn to forward to the planning board indication that we have deferred consideration. We'll keep it on the unfinished business until we hear from the planning board. Lynn might even, well, I was gonna say capture a phrase that says, only intent here is to comply with state statute, but I think they already know that, so I don't think we need to even address that. Any other issues regarding that item? Any other discussion? And we'll move on to reports. I had just asked that we just consider briefly portions of a tax assessor's report. And one thing that I'm impressed by is that she's going to attend on Saturday the 7th, a session regarding property reval. And if you read her report, you'll see that it's League of Cities and Towns hosting it. Panel of municipal tax assessors will lead the discussion. And I just keep hearing back from people, and I bet you do too, that when people go in to ask her questions, she is so very helpful and right on top of her game there. Note also that she's received only one residential tax appeal, which, I mean, that people question. Obviously, she's explained to them why they have the questions, and only one person has appealed, which to me is pretty remarkable about what she can do in there. Also, the deadline, she mentions the deadline for motor vehicles, and I know someone asked me why they didn't get a couple people asked, why they didn't get a tax bill on their cars? It's because of the extended phase out and all of that, so there are less bills. She indicates a number of motor vehicles appeals has decreased substantially as a result of higher state mandated phase out. And I also think, didn't they change also the way the vehicles are valued from the blue book 100% to a lesser 80, 70, 80? I'm not sure, but I think that's also helped and is more reasonable. The other thing I wanted to point out is that Director of Social Services raised a question about the Reynolds Trust. I'd like to ask Lynn to just forward a copy of this to Paul Ward with a note, with a memo that the council addressed this, but is asking if he has any suggestions that he might discuss with Christine Skaggs. I don't know what kind of conversations they've had, but she's telling us that there may be communications issues. Of course, they're volunteers, so you can't demand a whole lot from people who are volunteering. But I like to just forward this to Paul so that he sees it and he may be sensitive and be able to address some of this. Those are my concerns on the reports. Lynn, you wouldn't mind doing that, would you? Do you want me to give you this so you'll be happy? Okay, the report. But I'm sorry, I jumped the gun. Ken? Whoops.
Frank had one.
Oh, Frank, I'm sorry. I skipped you.
Oh,
But I also was supposed to go to
Yeah.
Ken, then Jen, then me, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I had attended the Exeter West Greenwich Regional Council of Exeter West Greenwich District Building Committee meeting this week, along with Donna Perry, who's representative from the planning board. And basically, they reviewed the progress of their design, redesign, and renovation of the entire school system. And they had a tour in the afternoon with Rhode and SBA, the School Building Authority. And then they were at the meeting that evening to assess where the progress we're making, and quite frankly, the state agencies, both agencies seem to be very pleased with the progress they're making, and giving in, the indications that they may succeed in getting some of the money.
Some of the money.
Again, that would be based on merit, and this is Rhode Island, so I wouldn't, but at any rate, it is progressing, and it's positive at this point.
Ken, I'm sorry I passed you over. Ken, you're first on reports.
I'm going. I just want to let you know I was voted to be the chair of the library board of trustees, so, I think it's well received by Amy.
Congratulations.
More work, yeah. But I think it's needed, they really appreciated the way the board first started off, now it's a change over to be more, I think, systematic approach to the policy procedures in place. So he appreciates that. Hopefully.
Well, thank you for, not only we got a liaison from the council, but we also have the council assistant chairing the library board of trustees, so that's kind of good. I think that's a good thing.
So, and then the next thing, about the mobile food truck establishments, that, they continue to come through, Lynn, thank you, Lynn, through the clerks group of draft ordinances, so I think it's best that we kind of wait as long as we can, because different versions and pieces are being added. So that's on the agenda, on my agenda, Lynn's agenda.
Good.
So, and then, oh, yeah.
But in the meanwhile, you've been very, very busy with the Genesis back and forth and getting all of that stuff. Right?
Jim also.
Oh,
Jim was
I know, that was, you're minimizing your input, but it's been very significant.
It was day by day for a while.
Please?
It was day by day for a while.
Jim?
Yeah, briefly, last month I told you that in the Arcadia case, the state had requested an extension of time to file a brief. All the other briefs were in. That was granted. And we received another request for extension by the state. And they've asked for another 30 days, so that's what's going on. It's just, we're marching forward, but everything's set, and it's as soon as the state's brief gets in, then the Supreme Court can give us a date for the hearing on that. The end is near on that case, one way or the other. Davis, as you might know, the State Drive suit. Mr. Davis filed a motion for a preliminary injunction, which I sent to everybody in about an 8-page memorandum, in which he's seeking to obtain an order from the court, a preliminary injunction from the court, to allow him basically to use that spur road, stub road, Paper Street, at the end of the State's Drive cul-de-sac. And we did an opposition. It's about a 25-pager. I sent that to Lynn. She's going to get it to everybody. It's very extensive. Steve back there was tremendously helpful. He can't be there on Friday when the hearing is going forward, but we have about a 50-paragraph or so affidavit from Steve, who was, as you know, a witness to the entire thing right from the very beginning when the planning board started talking to the developer, right through to the blockage, or to the cutting down of the woodland in the area of Paper Street. So that's going to be very helpful. Lynn, of course, helped us get all the necessary town documents, and she also put in an affidavit which we received today. It was all filed today. We have about 20, like I said, about a 25-page legal memorandum. I think it's pretty good. It was done mostly by Steve Seipel, who is one of our land use lawyers, who's an assistant solicitor here. He did a great job. So you'll all be seeing that. Take a look at it. You don't have to paw through all of the exhibits, but certainly read it and you get a flavor for the arguments that we're making. And I think they're pretty clear. And like I say, the hearing's on Friday morning before Judge Taft Carter in Washington County. Just so you know, a preliminary injunction is just that. It's a request for someone basically claiming that the status quo should be held, which is interesting because the status quo is something that was not a public roadway. And yet, Mr. Davis is claiming that it was always used and therefore it should be opened for his use now. In any event, preliminary injunction, whatever the judge decides, whether for the town or against the town, is only in effect until the hearing on a permanent injunction will really would be essentially a trial on the merits. So, no matter what happens, it's not the end on Friday. Even if we win this, there's still an opportunity for a final hearing. The thing is, it's very important because when preliminary injunctions are acted on, most judges usually follow suit on the trial on the merits with the way they acted on the preliminary. Not always, depends on the facts that come in, but this is crucial because all the legal arguments are being made now, and the judge is going to act on it one way or the other. So that's that case. Everything else Ken and I worked on, he's already talked about. You know, there were a couple of zoning enforcement matters that referred to me the day after the town council meeting last month, and that was taken care of pretty quickly. That's about it.
I just want to add to what you said with regard to what Steve did to prepare, help you prepare, because I saw him up here, I don't know, a week or so ago or something, and he had this sheaf of information that he had gathered from the research down here. So Steve, you know, you pulled it together to help to do what they're doing. And you found it, and you did some due diligence.
Some great stuff.
Thank you very much for behalf of the town. And then I was supposed to do those other reports that you did first, I'm sorry. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the report? Otherwise, I'm gonna go to other administrative issues. Could we just speak to the issue of transfer station permits? That wasn't, they didn't sell this weekend here, but because there were cars out here, Ken, James, then I arrived, the cleaning people were here, and a lot of other people arrived because they just thought it's time to buy a permit. So we just kept saying no. I sent Peter Ruggiero. He came in. I said, Peter, please go up and say, don't send people here because they're not open. So here's the deal. Now we're going to talk about this coming weekend, which no one was planning to be here, but I talked to Lynn today, and we could staff this weekend, just to have somebody here. And you thought it should be, and I think maybe you're right, because people are gonna go, it's like they did, they were walking in, saying, oh, my sticker expired, so they're coming here, now if they're here, they'll come and buy it. So, Lynn has said she can staff it this weekend.
This weekend and not the following weekend?
Both,
What do you think, Steve?
both weekends. We've always done it for 2 weeks after Labor Day, almost every year for the last 6 years.
Pretty much.
Longer.
So we'll do it both.
You usually
Well,
can tell pretty well, the numbers will fall off quickly. You'll get a lot the first time, then the Sunday will be, they'll be about the same on the first weekend. The second weekend, they'll fall off considerable. You might sell a third of what you sold the first weekend. Then after that, they just get them normal.
So, well, unless you have any objection, I think we'll continue, let's try selling them this week. Because the most important thing, and someone said to me today, it doesn't say that in the ordinance that you can have a grace period. So we're trying to do everything to mitigate the issues that have surfaced in the past. And keep in mind what I suggested earlier, that maybe we do October 1st and give, then it doesn't fall on Labor Day weekend, which is, anyway, that's enough for tonight. So, would you like us to direct you to open this weekend?
I'm
We
ready.
will do it. You all set, council, any objection to having people here to sell over the weekend? I think it helps the public, helps the people out there too. And the guys now could say, it's open at Town Hall, you know, go get it. Which they did last week, but that didn't work out too well. Okay, very good. Communications, the ones I noted have been addressed, but you had one, Frank, and someone else, Dan, did you, I think?
No, you had 3 and 6, and Frank had 16.
The only one you didn't get was
No, I'm
number
sorry.
3.
I had
No,
three.
I'm wrong. Frank had 3. Mike, you had number 8. You could, you covered it? Number 3 covered, or are we gonna discuss it, Frank?
Here, I have it right here.
There we go.
Here it is, look, it's this right here.
Oh, I've got it.
Department of Environmental Management.
Right, you got $4 million funding. I just wanted to hope that we could make sure that the land trust is aware of it.
So you
Oh,
need to send
okay.
a copy to Land Trust?
Okay.
Oh, okay. And yours are all set? You covered all yours?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mike, did, you said okay on that number 8? Or no, did you have number 8? Someone who had number 8?
Mike did.
That's the resignation of Mr.
You
Ewing.
wrote down for the
Oh,
resignation.
the Dennis will take care of that.
Yep.
Then, otherwise, I am going to move that we enter an executive session regarding personnel issues, labor relations, and I don't believe there's any other reason. Anyone else have a reason to enter into exec session?
Moonlight.
That will be under, well, it's not, that will be under personnel, because
Oh,
remember,
okay,
it's
yeah.
addressing an employee.
Yes.
Remember? But I don't mean to say remember.
Yeah, no
Mary
worries.
and I had an afternoon conversation, and I told him I think we can address an issue there under personnel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, to enter into executive session. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so voted.
Do you need Steve or Maria?
Steve and Maria. Steve and Maria.